promote the Agenda 2063, the continental. We have our own educational strategy.
Right.
Yes, which we are doing. But we still talk about the UN goals, the SDGs. We don't talk about the Agenda 2063.
Right.
And so it's like our priorities are not in sync with what we do for ourselves. And so we are glad that you are here and to help us. And so before we go, we'll give you the last words. We will start with Sharon. Sharon, what do you want to say? The family period. I like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I want to say, as I listened to my sister and she talked about the information we received, we have to research it ourselves. Okay? We have to be the source. We have to take responsibility and get the information ourselves and make the connection because it is out there. We are connected, and we can't have anyone else be responsible for our history. It is our history, and we have to take ownership of it, and we have to make sure it is expressed accurately and not skewed. So,
Cindy.
I just want to say that to Africans and Africans across the diaspora that we are a family.
yes.
And that we have to redirect our narrative and we have to love ourselves and love the country that we're from and give back to that country and go back to that country. And in order for us to do that, we have to tell our stories, we have to research our stories, and we have to begin healing. And to do that is to lean on one another. So don't overlook each other, reach out, love on each other, grab a hand, come back, and serve.
And I guess I want to say that we are Africans and we have the best minds. We have the best minds out here. And if we could just bring our young along, seeing us be our best. And knowing their history. We could teach them their history. They are the best minds. They come from us. We, women, we give birth to greatness. And if we know that, we'll take better care of ourselves. If we put that first, you know, that we are creating the best the world has to offer. And so if we can instill that in ourselves and our youth, it would be such a powerful thing.
Thank you so much for coming. And I enjoyed our conversation. We wish you a fruitful stay. And we wish that you come during the Christmas so that we enjoy the festivities together.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Interesting. Thank you so much for joining us on AU Talks. You can watch us on our Facebook page, Association of African Universities. Have a good day.
Welcome to Event Update on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Event Update brings you information about upcoming higher education events happening in Africa, and it is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. I am Isabella Tetahenakwa.
I am Alexandra Ampaba Johnson.
Please stay tuned for the updates.
Accra Institute of Technology is a top-notch private university in Ghana. The university offers world-class bachelor's, master's, and PhD degree programs.
IT and management is one of the good courses I think we should offer these days, because I realized that on my years of experience on the IT field, I like that IT guys find it very difficult to cope with the management aspect. And AIT is giving us the opportunity to do IT and management. We dive into what? Programming. I did HR. I did principal management, and all this one is giving me the opportunity to be able to communicate with my manager. So when we are talking about IT, I know that I'm talking about something technical, and I can also talk about management, which is also another dimension of corporate institution. So with all this, I think AIT is giving us a very nice opportunity.
We are AIT, the University of the Future.
Welcome back. The Association of African Universities, AAU, is pleased to invite all African higher and tertiary education institutions to apply for institutional workshop for the 2019 and 2020 academic year. This activity is implemented by the AAU in its capacity as the apex body and voice of higher education in Africa, as well as the coordinator of the higher education cluster of the African Union's Continental Educational Strategy, CESA 2016-2025. Interested universities and institutions can kindly apply online via www.surveymonkey.com/r/AAU Works 19 to 20. Contact Frank Asefwa on fasefwa@aau.org or call +233 548 880855 for any technical challenges. And for more details, please visit www.aau.org or www.blog.aau.org.
L'Association des universités africaines, AUA, est heureuse d'inviter toute institution africaine d'enseignement supérieur à postuler pour des ateliers institutionnels pour l'année académique 2019-2020. Cette activité est mise en œuvre par l'Association des universités africaines en sa qualité d'organisation fêtière et la voix de l'enseignement supérieur en Afrique, ainsi que le coordinateur du cadre de l'enseignement supérieur de la stratégie éducative continentale de l'Union africaine, CESA, 2016-2025. Les universités et institutions intéressées peuvent postuler en ligne via www.surveymonkey.com/r/AAU-19-TO20. Contactez Franck Asefwa sur fasefwa@aau.org ou appelez +233 548 88 08 55 pour tout problème technique et veuillez visiter www.aau.org ou www.blog.aau.org pour plus de détails.
The Association of Commonwealth Universities, ACU, in collaboration with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, is inviting you to an upcoming workshop under the theme Developing the Next Generation of Researchers. Date 16th to 20th March 2020. Venue Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, Ghana. This workshop will provide an opportunity for senior academic staff and emerging researchers to explore innovative approaches to professional development and collaboration. In addition, the Association of Commonwealth Universities will be launching the Circle Institutional Strengthening Implementation Fund for member universities to apply for financial support to deliver activities to improve support for early career researchers. Please email nextgen@acu.ac.uk for more information.
L'Association des universités du Commonwealth, en collaboration avec l'Université des sciences et technologies de Kwame Nkrumah, KNUST, vous invite à son atelier intitulé « Développer la prochaine génération de chercheurs » du 16 au 20 mars 2020 à l'Université des sciences et technologies Kwame Nkrumah à Kumasi, au Ghana. Cet atelier permettra aux universitaires et aux chercheurs émergents d'explorer des approches innovantes de développement professionnel et de collaboration. En outre, Association of Commonwealth Universities lancera le fonds de mise en œuvre du renforcement institutionnel Circle pour les universités membres afin de demander un soutien financier pour fournir des activités visant à améliorer le soutien aux chercheurs en début de carrière. Veuillez envoyer un courriel à nextgen@acu.ac.uk pour plus d'informations.
The West and Central African Research and Education Network, WACREN, is organizing its 6th annual conference hosted by the Benin Research and Education Network on the theme Digital Transformation for Development. Date 19th to 20th March 2020. Venue Cotonou, Benin. This conference is a call for papers, and interested authors are to submit their abstract on these related subjects: new technologies, innovation and fourth industrial revolution, e-learning, lifelong learning and education strategy, open science and open access, as well as ethics and governance. Kindly submit.
Le réseau de recherche et d'éducation de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et du Centre, WACREN, organise sa 6e conférence annuelle organisée par le réseau de recherche et d'éducation du Bénin sur le thème Transformation numérique pour le développement. Date 19 au 20 mars 2020, lieu Cotonou, Bénin. Cette conférence est un appel à communication et les auteurs intéressés doivent soumettre leur résumé sur les suggestions et 4e révolution industrielle. Stratégie d'apprentissage en ligne, d'apprentissage tout au long de la vie et d'éducation. Plus de détails, contactez WACREN via cfp2020@wacren.net.
كمال محمد عبيد مدير جامعة أفريقيا العالمية، أعمل في هذه الجامعة منذ العام 1982. جامعة أفريقيا العالمية كغيرها من الجامعات تؤدي وظائفها الرئيسية التعليم والبحث العلمي وخدمة المجتمع. الجامعة الآن دخلت في مشروع جديد بإدخال فكرة الجامعة المنتجة، وتقوم بتدريب الطلاب وتقوم كذلك بخدمة المجتمع. الجامعة الآن بالإضافة إلى كل الخدمة للمجتمع عن طريق تنظيم القوافل والمخيمات التربوية للطلاب. لدينا قناتين الآن، قناة العالمية العامة وقناة العالمية التعليمية، بالإضافة إلى راديو أفريقيا، ويديرها الأساتذة والطلاب. أن تحصل جامعة أفريقيا العالمية على جائزة الملك فيصل في مجال خدمة الإسلام، هذا مؤشر لأن الجامعة تعمل في الاتجاه الصحيح، التعليم المتميز لتحقيق أهداف الدعوة.
The Makerere University and the government of Uganda are inviting you to join the international leaders and experts for the 2020 World Health Summit regional meetings to address the biggest challenges in global health in the region and around the world. Date 27 to 28 April 2020. Venue Speaker Resort and Munyonyo Commonwealth Resort, Kampala, Uganda. Topics to be discussed at the summit are the health of the African youth, advancing technology for health in Africa, global health security, non-communicable diseases, intersectoral action for health, as well as universal health coverage. For more information, please contact Dr. Charles Bate via drcbate@gmail.com or call +256 700 800 618. You can also visit www.worldhealthsummit.org.
L'Université Makerere et le gouvernement de l'Ouganda vous invitent à rejoindre les dirigeants et experts internationaux pour la réunion régionale du Sommet mondial de la santé 2020 afin de relever les plus grands défis de la santé mondiale dans la région et dans le monde. Date 27 au 28 avril 2020, lieu Speaker Resort et Munyonyo Commonwealth Resort, Kampala, Ouganda. Les sujets porteront sur la santé de la jeunesse africaine, comment faire progresser la technologie pour la santé en Afrique, la sécurité sanitaire mondiale, les maladies non transmissibles, l'action intersectorielle pour la santé et la couverture sanitaire universelle. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez contacter le Dr Charles Bate via dr.cbate@gmail.com ou appeler le +256 780 06 18 et vous pouvez également visiter www.worldhealthsummit.org.
The Association of African Universities is inviting you to their annual School for African Student Leaders on the theme Quality Student Leadership and Administration in African Universities. Date 9 to 12 June 2020. Venue the AAU Secretariat. This conference will discover and develop the leadership qualities of the student leaders, assist them to identify the right environment and conditions under which they operate as leaders, and seek to equip both newly elected and current student leaders with knowledge through practical exercises and case studies that will adequately prepare them to efficiently manage their peers and contribute immensely to the overall goals of their universities. Interested participants are to register via the link on your screen And for more information, kindly contact Mr. Kwesi Akwasam via kasam@aau.org or call +233 243 298464.
L'Association des universités africaines vous invite à son atelier annuel des leaders étudiants africains sur le thème leadership et administration des étudiants de qualité dans les universités africaines du 9 au 12 juin 2020 au secrétariat de l'AEA. Cette conférence découvrira et développera des qualités de leadership des leaders étudiants et les aidera à identifier le bon environnement et les conditions dans lesquelles ils opèrent en tant que leaders. Elle cherche également à doter les leaders étudiants nouvellement élus et actuels de connaissances à travers des exercices pratiques et des études de cas qui les préparera adéquatement à gérer efficacement leur pairs et à contribuer énormément aux objectifs généraux de leur université. Les participants intéressés doivent s'inscrire via le lien qui s'affiche sur l'écran. Et pour plus d'informations, veuillez contacter M. Kwesi Akwasam via kasam@aau.org ou appeler le +233 243 29 84 64.
The African Diaspora Nation ADN is inviting you to the Historically Black Colleges and Universities HBCU Africa Homecoming and Recruiting Fair Ghana 2020 on the theme Expanding HBCU Engagement in Africa. Date 23rd to 25th July 2020. Venue Accra, Ghana. This event will connect US HBCU leaders, governments, stakeholders, influencers, and C-suite executives with their counterparts in Africa and the African Union, along with the Forum for Traditional Leaders of Africa, to establish short, medium, and long-term collaborative partnerships and solutions for educational, economic, and social leadership exchange. For more information, kindly email info@africandiasporanation.org.
La Nation de la diaspora africaine ADN vous invite à la foire des retrouvailles et du recrutement en Afrique des collèges et universités historiquement noires HBCU, appelé Ghana 2020 sur le thème Expansion de l'engagement des HBCU en Afrique. Date 23 au 25 juillet 2020, lieu Accra, Ghana. Cet événement mettra en contact les dirigeants, les gouvernements, les parties prenantes, les influenceurs et dirigeants de ces suites des États-Unis, de la HBCU, avec leurs homologues en Afrique et dans l'Union africaine, ainsi qu'un forum pour les chefs traditionnels de l'Afrique afin d'établir les partenariats et des solutions de collaboration à court, moyen et long terme pour l'échange d'un leadership éducatif, économique et social. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez envoyer un email à info@africandiasporanation.org.
That is all for today's update. Event Update is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. Please follow us on our social media platforms at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AAUTV_African Universities on Twitter, and AAUTV Official on Instagram. You can also visit our dedicated website at tv.aau.org for more of event updates. I am Isabella Tetahinakwa.
Je m'appelle Alexandra Ampaba Johnson.
We are live from the studios of the Association of African Universities headquarters here in Accra, Ghana, and this is AAU Talks. My name is Kwesi Sam. Today on AAU Talks, we are discussing sustainable job creation for the African youth. And don't forget that you can join the conversation via our social media platforms, Association of African Universities on Facebook and AAU_67 via Twitter. We will go for a short break, and when I come back, I will introduce my guests. Stay tuned. This is AAU Talks.
Sacred knowledge is at our very fingertips. Knowledge that can illuminate our lives and the lives of our children and our families. So what are you waiting for? Join the Islamic Online University today and fulfill the prophetic command: seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. You may join the diploma course, which is absolutely free with no hidden costs at all, or the BA in Islamic Studies based on the curriculums of the Islamic University of Medina as well as Al-Azhar University. And join the collective effort in changing the nation through education.
Welcome back from the break, and viewers, this is AAU Talks on AAU TV, and today we are discussing sustainable job creation for the African youth. And don't forget to join us, send us your comments, send us your views. What do you think about the topic for today, sustainable job creation for the African youth? And we are privileged to have two young gentlemen who are brilliant and they are very innovative to help me discuss this subject. And the first to be introduced is the Chief Executive Officer of Platinum Africa Solutions, in the person of Mr. Derek Vomao. Derek, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to AAU Talks.
Thank you very much.
Great. And the second resource person, or the second guest to be introduced, he is in the person of Mr. Prince Apa. And Mr. Prince is also the head of research and public relations at TANO. TANO is the African Network of Entrepreneurs. Prince, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
Very good.
Great. So, gentlemen, finally, you are welcome to AAU Talk, and we are glad that you could join us today to discuss a very important topic that has to do with job creation for the African youth. For the past few weeks, I've been interviewing vice chancellors and some seasoned academics on the continent. We are looking at how we can revitalize African higher education to suit the current demands of industries and then the continent as a whole. And the basic thing is that we must ensure that our students are entrepreneurial. We must ensure that our universities are running programs that are in line with industry. Let me first take your view on that assertion from academics.
So a warm greetings to everyone watching. So I think when it comes to this subject matter, I mean, it's one of the areas that are very, very important and is raising a lot of concerns, I mean, in our system right now.
Sure.
When it comes to bridging the gap between education or the classroom and then industry.
Sure.
You know, in the last 2 weeks we had the event together and I told people that the gap is you. But then now let's look at redefining that gap again. Okay, what do we mean by someone being entrepreneurial? For me, it's just the ability to solve problems and being paid for it. Good. You understand me? It's as basic as that. It's being able to solve problems and then being paid for it. And I keep sharing on most platforms I get a chance to sit on that Ghana is very rich, or Africa is very rich, because we have a lot of problems here.
Sure.
So
an undeveloped continent.
Exactly. So every problem poses a business opportunity, you know, for entrepreneurs. And the moment you make a move to solving a problem, then you become entrepreneurial. Because even in the workplace, I mean, one of my job role is to recruit for companies. And even in that lane, I don't hire CVs. I hire people that have the potential of solving many of the problems that my clients are facing. You understand me? So that is what even people are looking for. So for me, being entrepreneurial doesn't mean necessarily starting up a business, but it's just the ability to solve a problem and being paid for it. which is a very, very important thing that we have to address and make our students aware of. Exactly. That we are not just supposed to sit in a classroom and then at the end of the 4-year period, you graduate with a certificate, which probably costs like 3 cedis to print. You understand? Sure. Then it's not enough. But during the 4-year period, what have you built yourself into? Okay. What has the program that you've studied? How has it immersed into you? How have you immersed yourself into the program to be able to solve a problem? And what are the problems you've identified? So I think I buy into that we have to make our students understand the need for them to be entrepreneurial from the perspective that being an entrepreneur is the ability to solve problems, not necessarily starting up a business like we think. Entrepreneurship is somebody who started a business. There are people who we call them intrapreneurs within an organization. You understand? But the way they perform their roles in the organization is just like they are solving problems innovatively. Innovation plays a key role here. So if you've gone to uni for 4 years or whatever it is for 4 years, and then you are just coming out with a certificate and you've not been able to become innovative, what is the process of innovation? How do you innovate? You understand me? Then there's a problem. So I think it's something that we need to delve into, make people understand the redefinition we are giving to entrepreneurship.
Great. Let me take your initial comment, especially the difference between buying and selling, and then real entrepreneurs, just as he has said.
I mean, first of all, it's good that maybe our academic is now getting to come to terms about the job creation or the job creation that is currently facing the continent, and trying to see the importance that young people need to start creating, not necessarily businesses, but creating activities that make them independent, maybe after school, or that can really sustain them as maybe role models to other people as well. But we also have to examine the context in which they are also preaching their exactly. Sure. Do we have the enabling environments that is going to make sure that all these people that are coming out of school are going to be entrepreneurial? Are we sure that the curriculum that we have in school that we are teaching every single day, it's kind of enabling or can give the potential to young people to go out there and create jobs instead of seeking for jobs? So I mean, like, we'll commend the academia for what they are preaching, but I would like to put it to them that they also need to start working on their toes, because I mean, I've been in school and I know people who are reading business administration, but even in their first year, second year, they don't know anything about business. They've not been to the field to study or understudy any entrepreneur. The only thing that they have to them are resources from, I mean Europe or from America. Exactly. We do not even have resources to even understudy entrepreneurs on our continent to even know how they thrive or how they even start their business. So for me, if the academia is trying to preach and this message for us to get students to become entrepreneurial, I think they need to do more on their side in helping the students to become entrepreneurial, because students are in school to learn a course. For example, I'm in school to learn communications, but the school should be able to teach me how successful other people have started companies out of this. For example, who are the best communicators in the country and who are the best business people in the country that are into communications. But the school never teach you that. The school is going to teach you about how to get your CV very well, how to get the knowledge to just go and be employed. But I think if they really, really, really want us to become entrepreneur after school, they need to start working on our curriculum, which is very important, because that is what is shaping us. Without that, I mean, we'll not go anywhere. And the perception also that entrepreneurship is some sort of fashion also has to be demystified when it comes to we preaching it. I see a lot of young people trying to be Bill Gates, but you never see anybody trying to become it despite, because they don't want to start how they started. They want to start with Bill Gates, getting the resources and getting other things. We need to, I mean, change the concept in which we even preach entrepreneurship to young people now, because I think it's not helping a lot of people, because they see it as a very nice thing, they jump into it, and all of a sudden they get to realize that, wow, it's a hell. And
the reality is different.
Yeah, and then they are trying to see ways in which they can dodge it. But I mean, you're already inside, and you've already told your family members that you are CEO of this and that. So they want to see you to produce results. And you know, in this part of the continent, it take you 5 years to produce the same result as somebody to take somebody a year to produce somewhere else. So I think for me, I'm excited that they are preaching that message, but it still comes back to them. They have a lot of work to do because we don't have any say when it comes to our curriculum, or we don't have any say when it comes to what they teach us in school. We can demonstrate against it, but I think if it has come to them that yes, what they are teaching now is not good, or they need to maybe advance it, I mean, they need to do a lot of work for that, and we'll be very grateful because the future of the continent is actually us.
Yes.
So if you're not able to train us now, that means the future that you want your grandchildren to enjoy, I mean, will not be there.
Okay. Now, both of you started your businesses or whatever whilst we're still in school.
Yes.
Let me start with you, Derek. How difficult or easy for you to just go your academics and still start up your own business? You are in school. How did you start it, and what was the drive, the passion for you?
Okay, so let me make it very relatable for everybody watching. So I, right after senior high, I did my diploma in business studies, which was supposed to be for 2 years. I tried for 1 year, and I got a distinction, and I applied for a job. Okay, my dream job as at then was to work in a bank. So as at between 19 20, I got my first bank job. So when I got into the bank, then I applied for studies to read banking and finance, Bachelor of Science, in the evening school. So I was working during the day.
At where? Which school?
UPSC.
UPSC, okay.
Exactly. So I was reading Bachelor of Science in banking and finance.
All right.
So I was doing that. And then now, second year, I got out of the bank, and then I had to start my company. How did I start? I was really passionate about the fact that I had a lot of ideas. Strategies came to me naturally. So it just comes to my mind, and I just knew how to work with money. I just had a connection to solving some of the many problems that businesses are facing in the world, focusing on Ghana. So I found a need there that, okay, I have these ideas. I could come up with a good plan, good strategy, good marketing, and all of those things for another company. They would be willing to pay for that. So why don't I start this? And I didn't, as I didn't have anything, so I started with a Broad laptop.
Okay.
You know, and then I rode my best friend's laptop at the time for 3 months. And it was tough because
no interest.
No nothing. I mean, I said I really, and I love the whole process. I keep telling people that if I had the chance, I would love to go back to when I started, and like I would not take each day for granted, because I felt like that was the time that I was built into a resilient entrepreneur. That moment of my life has defined me, has made me who I've become, because I went through the process of building this company, which we say is my company. We are preaching that we are hoping to become the most reliable business consulting firm in Africa. You understand? And we are running the company here in Ghana and Kenya as well. So being able to build it from a Broad laptop into what it's become right now, that process has been priceless for me. And for me, it has taught me the principle of resourcefulness. You understand? A lot of patience, lots of consistency, you know, and being able to put your business on the path of sustainability. That years from now, because it's not just about starting. Mostly when I go to events and I have to talk about starting a business, I get off because I'm like, starting is not the message I will be preaching. It's about building this for life. Yeah, because anybody can just start. You could Google how to start a business, and I don't like to talk about things you can find on Google. It should be something I have done, I've felt, I've experienced,
the passion
exactly, that I can give out to someone. So for me, it was one of the difficult things that I faced was the fact that I was young. I mean, this was consulting. You had to do with people that are in this for like years. Exactly. But then somehow, I don't know, this thing just kept coming. So I know there are times, like Prince said, I was not the kind of entrepreneur that was looking for an office and all of those flashy stuff. I went out, I'll walk in the hot sun, I'll go to Osu, I'll go to companies, restaurants, tell them that, hey, we do this, we do that. Some of them really treated me like so bad. I mean, at times I just woke up in the morning, I'm like, today I want to be broken. Let me just go out there, go to companies I don't know about, just tell them I'm here. Some of them will look at you like, where did you come from? I mean, how old are you?
Who are you?
Exactly. And so that was a major challenge I faced, the fact that I was young. And that's one of the problems here in Ghana. If you are young, it looks like you are incompetent, you can't do anything until you are 40. You understand? And we are the same people preaching that young people should do this. But when the same young people come to you, they will start acting up like they are too young. But I'm glad that right now, some of us have been able to redefine that narrative. I mean, that thing that used to be there. I have companies that have been here for over 50 years that are coming to us for services. You know, they are trusting us with their money. They are trusting us to deliver to them. And I see some of the young people really doing amazing. And it shows that we can be trusted. Sure. We are not too young to be trusted. You know, so that was one of the major challenges. And also, I think one of the challenges was, I think it was one of the challenges I overcame was the fact that I had to really see a vision for this company. You know, where are we heading to? In the next 5 years, what do we want to become? What do we want to become years after now? What is the brand perception that we want people to have about us when our name is mentioned? You know, and these are things that most startup entrepreneurs do not think about, that a brand is not actually the colors or the logo. It is the perception, it is the promise. Okay. You understand me?
Derek, let me take you back to the school days. That is where we have a lot of the problem. I have young people who come to me, I sit down with them, go through their business plans and proposals, and I tell them, look, in the next 2 years, if EcoBank should employ you, you just throw this business plan somewhere. What was your motivation? You see, how were you, did you have, a lot of us go to school and we are so much bent on making the first class excel academically, and if we want to combine anything with it, we are thinking of, oh, will I be able to make it? What was the dilemma for you? That point is very important.
Very. I mean, I shared with some students last week, and I told them that when I was in uni, this is what I did. I personalized every course that I took. Okay. I saw a reason for me to take that course. That, okay, I'm running this company, so I'm doing, if I'm doing a course in insurance, I should understand this for me. You understand me? And that is one of the things that sometimes we fail to understand as students, that this shouldn't just be about studying to go and write an exam and passing. My goal was not to make a first class. My goal was to make sure that I become a first class person here, that I'm not paying school fees for a paper. I'm paying the lecturers to teach me something I don't know. So if it's something I already know, then my expectations from them will be high, because they need to really show me something. And that's one of the problems I have with most of the unis, that some of the lecturers are actually teaching courses they haven't done practically. Like, you cannot teach me entrepreneurship when you've not started a business. It's the truth. You won't understand what it means to be an entrepreneur if you've not been in it. So you are teaching me theories, but I want something more than what's in the book. You understand me? So I had to personalize my courses, and that was one of the things that helped me. Like, I read programs and I had to like understand it from my perspective, that okay, so if we are doing finance, I mean, a business finance is this. So for me, this is what I'll need to apply, and that helped me to explain myself in examinations and stuff. You know, so I personalized the courses for myself, make sure that I understand what they're teaching. If it's not something I would want to know, or possibly something I could get on Google, I wouldn't want to be there. You understand? Yeah.
I think I have a lot of questions to ask you, but let me go to Praise. Praise, how was your personal experience combining the idea, the passion, the thought of starting a business in school, vis-a-vis your academics as well?
So I mean, like, I would like to encourage every young person that whenever any opportunity of you starting a business come, take it and grab it and use it, because at the end of the day, it's one of the key things that is needed is the experience. You know, even if you're applying for a job, everybody wants experience now before you can give you something. My first business that I handled was not my business, but this is one of the things the person preached to me. It was Pastor Jude. He said, "Prince, I'm glad I'm teaching you how to make money at this age." And I was 19, and he wanted to start a newspaper. And then he wanted a young person to champion it, so he selected me. And I didn't have any business experience. The only thing that I did was in high school then was being an editor-in-chief. We started a news club on campus, so every Monday and Friday we're going to read news at Assemble to students. So I picked up some experience from there. And then we started a newspaper. So at the age of 19, I was editor-in-chief of a newspaper. And what he told me was, I'm glad I'm trying to teach you to make money. But when I started, I didn't have the thing in me that I was in this to actually make money. I was there just because I was there because of passion. Yeah, I'm passionate about this. And one of the things that we as young entrepreneurs need to note is that it's not only about passion that will make you eat in the evening. It's about adding sense to the passion and making money out of it. Now, when it comes to combining maybe our lifestyles as students and entrepreneurs, I can tell you that it's not easy. For example, I ran a company called Advanced Media, and we are into the ranking of young people and then trying to celebrate them every year. So this year,
young people in business or
young people in general. So from business to politics to lifestyle to entertainment. So one of the key things that this year I was really discouraged to still continue running my business because it came to a point where when we were supposed to be announcing our winners, it was the same week that I'm supposed to write exams. So imagine if I didn't have any commitment or I didn't have any experience to this, I would have failed my papers, and at the same time failed in my business as well. So as young people, we need to really grow the strategy. We need to grow ourselves with a lot of strategies as to how we can survive in business. Because, as he said, it's not easy combining being in school and then running a business. It has a lot of clashes. And for example, the school doesn't care whether you're in a business or not. All that they care about is you're paying school fees and you're coming to sit there and write paper, or coming to that and sitting. Coming to school to sit in lecture room and then listen to them or do whatever thing that they ask you to do. So, but for me, I think we need to encourage more young people to combine, to take challenges. Yes, you have to take challenges and see how best you can manage it, because you never know what big opportunities that you have in future that will need this same sort of experience for you to be able to overcome this. So I think young people should get the opportunity. If they get it, they should grab it and try and see how best they can motivate. I don't think there's any defined formula of how you can juggle maybe entrepreneurship and then schooling at the same time. It comes based on your own commitment, and that is how you can be able to stand out in academics and both in your business.
All right. Now, so listening to the two of you, there's a simple message that you are putting across that has to do with the fact that you can't leave your passion out of it. And that is what drives you even to go to the lecture theater. I've been in that situation before where I sit during lectures and my mind is somewhere else. I'm thinking of what the lecturer is teaching and what I can make out of it right from the classroom. Now, let us situate passion very well with as in business success. Do we have any correlation, passion and business success?
Yeah, for me, I think I'm very blunt when it comes to this. I'm so passionate about business that it's so obvious. Anytime I'm talking about it, because I feel like passion is not enough. It's just like love not being enough to maintain a relationship. You understand? Passion is passion. If you don't take care, you end up running something out of passion, and trust me, years down the line, you wouldn't be remembered. You understand? Yeah, because business is a tough ride. And I shared in my book what they don't tell you about entrepreneurship from my perspective. And I made people understand that it's not a fun ride like we think. You are going to be dealing with a lot of drama, a lot of things. So if passion is just the only thing that's going to drive you, then you should just find something else. But passion is key. It is a starting point to solving a problem. And that makes you a true entrepreneur. A true entrepreneur is someone that is connected to the problem that he or she is solving. So because of the problem, they wake up at 2 a.m. cooking up ideas. How do I solve this problem? How do I make money out of this? How do I make people's lives better out of what I'm doing? That makes you a true entrepreneur, because there's a connection to the problem. And here's one thing about passion when it comes to that stage. When you are connected to the problem, because of the primary connection you have, there will be secondary problems you'll be identifying. Other problems you'll be identifying around the major problem. For example, someone is starting a food business because people would be hungry to eat. But then again, because there's a connection to the business, the person thinks that at a point, people wouldn't want to come out to buy food. They want to sit at the comfort of their homes in their offices to buy food. So I have to do free deliveries. Out of that, I can start a delivery firm. So, of course, other restaurants would want to have that service as well. You understand? Now, they wouldn't want to call me to order anymore. They want an app. Let me partner with an IT guy, create an app. People can buy the food online. You understand? Now, at a point again, they wouldn't want to eat meat. That people want to be health conscious. So now they want to eat more greens. So because of the connection, you get to have other ideas around the problem. And that makes you a true entrepreneur. And that makes the difference between those that are preaching entrepreneurship to be fancy and flashy and the role of a CEO to be bossy and all beautiful, to those that are actually on the ground solving problems. That makes them true entrepreneurs. And now passion. So passion is a key. It is a key thing. Fine, but then I think it takes a lot of discipline.
Okay.
Where does it start from? Do you lay your bed when you wake up in the morning? Do you have a routine that you adhere to every day? Because that's where discipline starts from. And that's one of the things I did to be disciplined, just for my business. That when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do, if I don't lay my bed, I don't leave the house. I have to read my Bible. I have to read my Bible before I sleep. You understand me? This is something I started myself to keep me disciplined. So I know that, okay, the rule of business entity, that me being a separate entity from my business, that makes you disciplined, that you know that, okay, when 10,000 is coming to the company, it's not my money. You understand me? I get paid this amount of money. Maybe every contract I work on, I get paid 20%. The company takes 80%. It's discipline. And that is how we run the business. That at a point when you are broke, the company is having money. It doesn't mean it's your money. You stay disciplined and true to the cause that this is the company I'm running here. It's a business. People are owing you. They've got to pay. People need to pay a price for the solutions you have. So if it's just about passion, people will be having it for free. And that is not a business. That is a passionate activity. That is a project. That is like a service.
It doesn't bring any money.
It doesn't bring. It's not a business. A business is an activity where somebody is willing to pay a price for another person's solution to their problem. So until that link has been established, until that grounds has been established and is fertile, then you're not running the business. Until somebody is willing and able to pay a price for what you have to offer to them without doubting your competence, without doubting your delivery, then you're not a businessman or a woman.
All right, let me take your comment on this, and then I'll go for a short break.
I think passion is that thing that just keeps you going.
Okay.
But for your business to really survive, it takes a lot of other factors. And I think Derek has mentioned a lot of them, because I was discussing with a young man recently, and he was so focused that he's so passionate about his business. But when he started mentioning his figures, how much he was making, and I started laughing at him. I'm like, passion alone cannot make your business become successful, make you the Warren Buffett today. Because you have to know that even Warren Buffett did a lot of investing, did a lot of spending, did a lot of mistakes before finding himself in where he is today. And I think there is this perception where every young person is doing business because when you ask them, yes, I'm so passionate about this problem, I want to solve it. And it takes a lot more for us to be able to understand that it's not only about the things that we perceive that will make us successful. There are environmental factors that can also make us successful. So if you need to partner with somebody to do it, go ahead and do it. If you need to go and take a loan to do something, go ahead and do it. But for a lot of young people, I think the idea, I mean, it also happened to me. I was so passionate about things that I wanted to solve. And when I started, I got to realize that no, I can't continue anymore. I have to get people on board. I have to get money on board. I mean, a lot of factors will definitely contribute to making sure that you are able to really sustain your business beyond passion. But I think as young people, we should be able to demystify our mindset that passion is the only thing. It can be the key thing that can keep you going, but it's not the only thing that can make you.
It's a basic thing, but it's what
I like the example he gave about relationship. I mean, there's love, but like it's not love that's going to keep relationship going.
Thank you very much. We'll go for a short break, and when I return, we'll look at other different types of entrepreneurs. Are we all supposed to create businesses, and then look at why some business startups fail? Okay. All right, viewers, this is AAU Talks, and today we are discussing sustainable job creation for the African youth. After the commercial break, we will still have our guest here to discuss this issue into detail. Stay tuned. Join us on our social media platforms. Send us your comments and your views, and let's read them for you. Welcome back, viewers. This is AAU Talks on AAU TV, and we are discussing sustainable job creation for the African youth. I still have the two gentlemen in the studio. They are doing amazing work. That is Prince and Derek. Let me start with you, Prince. Let's look at this issue in detail. Do we have different types of entrepreneurs? Sometimes I get a bit confused. Everybody parades himself as an entrepreneur. Do we have different types? Are we all supposed to create businesses, or what are we all supposed to do?
Okay, so I mean, from our perspective, it's not different type of entrepreneurs, but maybe different type of business owners.
Okay.
There's this idea of everybody needs to start a business, but from there's a perspective that says that it's people that solve needs, that are entrepreneurs, and people who solve problems, that are businessmen. So it tends to create a lot of misconception or the perception a lot of young people have when it comes to that is different.
Okay.
When you're talking about solving need and problems, for example, Facebook is never a problem. Facebook is not solving a problem. Without Facebook, you can still live your daily life. But if this chair is broken, it becomes a problem. Without it, we cannot sit here.
Okay.
And it's those people that are rather the businessmen that we see on the streets and all those kind of stuff. They are the people who are not really the fashionable businesses that we all want to enter into. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, we are all trying to see how we can solve a need.
Okay.
But the thing is, the need we are solving, how many people have that need? That's when, for example, you see a lot of Ghanaians creating apps similar to Facebook, and they're kind of surprised why their apps are not thriving. Because basically you're solving need, but you're solving it to only 25 million people.
Okay.
And even for you to even, market it becomes very difficult because it is not solving any peculiar need within like our locality. But for example, if you take a lot of businesses, a lot of young people are starting today, if you study it, you could see that they are becoming more innovative in their thinking. For example, you take a company like Haptel. Everybody is not sending text message.
Okay.
But think about how easy and how fast you want to send a text message. So they came up with an idea that they want to create a platform where people can just upload contact and send a text message to a lot of people. And they got it right. And because of that, other people are also copying them. So as young people or as people who are eager to start businesses, we really need to sit down and really study what kind of business do we want to start? Do you want to solve a problem or do you want to solve a need?
So and I think the issue has to do with identifying a business problem, and
or a need.
A need and coming up with a solution.
Exactly.
And until you do that, you can just be doing shadow boxing.
Yeah, I mean, like there are lots of young people who are doing it, but like it's not really working for them.
All right.
Some of them know the need and they know the problem, but they don't know the kind of solution that the customer will actually need.
All right.
That will make the person satisfied. So I mean, when it comes to play, and one of the key things that I've also noticed is when you're an entrepreneur, you tend to make more money than when you're a businessman. So a lot of young people are focused on trying to become entrepreneurs than businessmen. But one of the things you got to realize that there are a lot of businessmen who are rich in Ghana than entrepreneurs who are actually solving problems that we want to have as our fashion, because most of the times we are reading things like from Europe and from America and other stuff. We are not taking time to really study our local ecosystem.
Okay.
And that's the reason why you see a lot of people starting today and then the next time they are failing because they've not been able to really come to terms into what can actually make their business survive here, or what kind of problems or needs that are peculiar that people over here need. Right. And even before you scale up, I mean, people start companies and they are thinking, I want to go global, I want to go this. But the thing is, are people in your locality even accepting what you're doing? Because if they are not able to accept what you're doing,
and identify with
you,
yes.
You don't have any story to go and sell anywhere for people to be convinced that, okay, you have an idea that can solve a problem because you solve it somewhere. Okay. So I think young people should really put into terms if they are solving a problem or a need, and if their locality really understands what they are solving. Because if your local market accepts you, you can go anywhere. Most of the times we also use the ideas of Facebook and Twitter, but you have to think of it that before even Twitter came to Ghana, it was successful somewhere else before it came here. So as young people, let's try and see how best and see where we can really fit ourselves, because all of us have strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Is your strength in becoming an entrepreneur? Because for becoming an entrepreneur, it takes a lot of time for you to even to make the money that you want to make. But if you are a business person in Ghana, you have the enabling environment to make enough to actually fend for yourself. Maybe it might not be as big as somebody who will become an entrepreneur.
Okay. How easy was it for you to move from the space of Ghana to Kenya with your business?
In my case, I think that move was scary. And each time I get asked what has been my greatest achievement on earth, it's not the awards I've been nominated for. It's the fact that I've won over my fears. That was the first thing I had to conquer. It was scary, but it worked like that, you know. So sometimes really, it's not all the time that it will take so much time for it to work. Sometimes you may get lucky, you may be graced. I mean, it's favor of God, and then boom, it catches fire. I was able to hold an event in Kenya, and preparation stage, I was not there. I did everything online, and the ticket prices for the event in Ghana we charge more in Kenya.
Okay.
And we had people attend, and I go to Kenya, and my first live television interview was on their biggest TV platform. Great. I mean, so just that move was worth it, you know. But just to buttress what Prince said, which is very important about that, for me, practically, I've come to identify various types of entrepreneurs, and quickly I'll share. I mean, I have sectioned them into, we have true entrepreneurs and regular entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Out of the regular entrepreneurs, we have the social entrepreneurs, we have the business entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
You understand me? People that are focusing on solving a societal need, you know, NGOs, foundations and stuff, and the people who are actually into business. You understand me? And one thing he said about need is, one powerful thing I've come to identify with business is, I take my company as a case study. You have to be careful when you are choosing a need to solve or a problem to solve. Some needs today may not be needs tomorrow. They may be wants. The question is, will people be willing and able to pay for wants? I mean, wants, or they will want to still focus on their needs.
Okay.
You understand? And I like the fact that we are talking about sustainable job creation. We are thinking about how to start on a path of sustainability. Sustainability is not decided today. It will happen eventually. It is the fact that 10 years from the day you start, you will still be able to look back and say, yes, I've built this business for 10 years. It's still running. You understand? Even that, you don't get complacent, because in business, anything can happen. You have to continually be on that path and put the, sustainability principles or strategies. You have to implement them in your company, you know, in what you are running. So, one of the things I've been preaching lately is true entrepreneurship. True entrepreneurship. That's what we need. We need, I would like to walk into, and that brings me to the question of asking people that, what is your Ghanaian dream? Everybody needs to have a Ghanaian dream. My Ghanaian dream is that I want to walk into ShopRite and I want to see made in Ghana milk, fresh milk. I want to see made in Ghana cornflakes. I want to see made in Ghana sausage. Because we are facing a balance of payment deficit as a country, because we are importing more than we are exporting. Everything we eat, we import. Even fruits, vegetables. What is the problem? So what happens? We're going to have a lot of houses, a lot of money, and no food to eat. And that's one of the primary areas we can be focused on. And anybody that is focusing on solving one of these many problems we are facing in Ghana becomes a true entrepreneur, because we are really solving a problem and a need at the same time, which is a problem and a need. And that need will always be a need tomorrow, because people will always want to eat. People always want to look good. People always want a good place to sleep. People always want to run their businesses. So you have to be able to be smart with choosing a sustainable path for what you are going to start. That would this thing be necessary 5 years from now? You understand me? So yeah, for me, that is my thoughts on the various types of entrepreneurship and how we can
but do you think that true entrepreneurs are born and not made? Are they made or they are born?
I mean, it would depend. For me, some people are born entrepreneurs, and some people have to be made. Some people have to be taught. Definitely. I don't know. I'm not sure it's genetic. Entrepreneurship is not in the genes. There are people who have given their businesses to their children, and the business have failed. It's not inside. It's something that you have to study. It's something that you have to experience. If you don't experience it, if you don't, get into it and learn the nitty-gritties, because it comes down to a lot of strategy. It comes down to a lot of talk. It comes down to a lot of talent. You have to take a lot to be able to run a business. It's not just about I'm the son of the CEO of this. I can also run a business. I've seen lots of young people trying to do that, and I mean, if you look at the statistics, most successful entrepreneurs don't give their business to their children to run. They rather allow them to even go and start their own thing or get employed somewhere else. I mean, just do a case study about how many entrepreneurs that you've seen, even locally, that's hand over their businesses to their children. So I don't think it's genetic. Okay. You have to be made. You have to go through the mill. I mean, you have to develop it. If you don't do it, I mean, you end up failing. And it goes down to a lot of people that even if it's in your gene, try to take experience from whoever you are studying under.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't, I mean, I know, for example, like Kwame Despite, the son is currently the one in charge. But if you go back to really understudy the guys, you're going to realize that from when they were young, they've been in the business. They've been understudying someone. They've gone to serve someone. But we have a lot of young people who think like, okay, no, I can go to Harvard, and the next moment I'm made CEO, I'm made CEO without going through any experience. Okay. And that's the reason why we get to advise a lot of entrepreneurs that even if you want to involve your family in your business, don't give them top leadership positions. Let them go through the process. Let them get to understand that, okay, this is how it works from the grounds.
So mentorship, grooming, training, everything is important.
Definitely. I mean, if you don't get it right, I mean, you're going to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong at the top. And it will be very scary. And we've seen a lot of business collapsing, even in Ghana, where we've seen the founders' children handling them at the forefront. And you never hear of them handling any branch manager position. But all of a sudden, they are CEO of the company. And at the next moment, at the next moment,
it's a very crucial thing. I mean, it's something we really need to make people understand.
Exactly.
It's not a fancy thing.
And the boss.
Yeah, I'm the boss of, and one of the problems with these people is that the reason why one of the reasons why they fail is the fact that they are not good with people. You know, you are in to solve problems for people. If you're not good with people, you cannot do anything good for people.
Exactly.
And that is when the business starts to fail, because that moment you've lost connection with your audience, your market. Your market are not machines, they are human beings. You understand me? So once you are bad with people, you cannot be good as a business person. And yes, I believe that entrepreneurs are great. It's just like greatness. You fine. You may be born into royalty, but yeah, some may be born. But I believe that the really strong ones, like resilient ones, are made. They are people that have grown into the process. They've been through the process, and then the process makes them a great entrepreneur.
Okay,
yeah,
that's beautiful. Let's go to the last part of our segment where we are looking at sustainable businesses. I can name or list the number of young people who started and they are nowhere to be found because of the fact that, I mean, you share your experience, the kind of hardship or the limited resources you have to work with. Not everybody can go through the process because they want to be seen flashy with all the cars and money and everything. How do we ensure, and I don't want us to go with the government, as a young person, how will I be able to make sure that I create a business and the business is sustainable to even employ others? Let me start with Prince.
Well, I mean, starting a business, first of all, is like, I mean, I always keep saying that it's an experience. But in starting a business, you need to have a vision. And we tend to see a lot of businesses in Ghana not surviving beyond 5 years, beyond 10 years. And we have to ask ourselves why. I mean, even though it's beyond government, we need to like really phantom the vision. What is the vision of the company? Because that's what carries the company wherever it to go. But you can see that there are lots of businesses in Ghana that do not have vision. There are lots of young people who are starting businesses because they are passionate about it, but they don't have any vision for it. So for us as young people, in starting a business, we should try and table in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, where do we want to go? But it's not only about having a dream, but about having a vision. It's also about doing the work. And you have to come to terms with it that doing the work is not going to be smooth. It's going to be very rough. And I like what Derek said, that starting a business like giving birth to a baby, where you know that definitely the people will fall sick. But you tend to see people whenever their businesses are in shambles or their business are experiencing some small problem, then they tend to give up. And that is what really affects a lot of businesses growing beyond even their vision or growing beyond how long they want to survive. So for us as young people, I always tell people that it's very good and we are very blessed that as young people, we have come to this time where we know about how to start business or how to even run business. It's not even just that maybe we'll run business for the rest of our lives. It's possible that sometimes we just need it to go and run somebody else's business. Because I see a lot of young people in Ghana now who have business, who have run businesses and are giving up, sometimes for the good reason, sometimes also mostly for the bad reason. And as I said earlier on, it's not just about starting a business, but it's about gaining experience. Because you have to know that we want to have thought leaders on business and entrepreneurship in the country. But how are we going to get those people? It's the people that have gone through the mill. It's the people who have failed. I've started again. It's the people who have failed and have stopped or have given up. And I recently shared a story of my first failed business. I want to start a barbering shop back in my village. I want to employ young people. I had this big idea. I mean, like in the next 2 years, I will open shops all over because we make a lot of money. But it came to term that, no, I didn't have things in place to really even keep my dream going. I didn't have a team that would take me forward. I didn't have money that I'm sure that, okay, even if something fails, I mean, I'll be able to. And we realized that even after setting up the whole business, putting up the structure and everything, there was nobody that we could even employ. And nobody was willing to work with us. And for me, it was not that just that we gave up on our business. For me, I realized that it was also a good moment for me to learn so that I can be able to handle other businesses very well.
Great. Thank you so much. Prince, let me take over. Derek,
yeah.
Let me take over.
Yeah, so I think building a sustainable business, right? Yes, like Prince said, the vision is important, so that's well said. And the second thing is, I believe in corporate culture. You know, a corporate culture. A culture is is a way of life.
Yeah.
Okay, is the reason why you become what you become, and you get what you get. Because if you keep doing what you always do, you keep getting what you always get. And that is one of the things that most startups do not think about. That what is my culture? How do I respond to emails? How do I respond to telephone calls? How do the people that work with me represent the company? Do they understand what we are about? Do they understand the meaning of our logo? Do they understand the meaning of our colors? Do they know why we say cheers? Do they know why we say no? You understand me? And these are it's like the team. You know, if it's going to be sustainable, I always use God as a best example. Like I said, there's a man that created the world in 6 days and now has over 7.5 billion people working for him. What did he do? He duplicated himself in us. So we have been made like him. We are creators just like the creator. And that is one of the principles of sustainability. That it's not. The vision is not just for you. When the vision is just for you, then you're not in a part of sustainability.
Sure.
Then when you die or when you leave
the vision dies also.
Exactly, things slow down. But it's powerful that you are not in the country and your company is still running. Clients are still coming in as though you are here. Do you understand me? And that should be the goal of every startup entrepreneur. That how do this keep running? Even in my absence, would this still make sense 5 years from now? What is the culture that I've put in place that myself and the people I work with would grow into? Because just like the role of the CEO, a corporate culture is not just adhered to, it is grown into. It takes time, people grow into it, and then it grows into the people. Right. And why do teams win? Why do teams lose? Because of a culture, because of the way they do things. So once there's a structured way of doing things, then you know that you are positioning your company on the way of sustainability. And the second thing, getting ready for sustainability, you have to look at even aside your team, your clients. Because the kind of clients you render services to or you sell to will determine whether you are going to be here for the rest of the year or the rest of the years ahead of you. Okay. You understand me? So you have the power to choose. And I always make people understand that there is a natural power we have, the power to decide what we want, when we want it, how we want it, and who we want it with. You understand me? So that natural power must be applied in your business here, even as you are on the path of sustainability, that you have the power to decide what product am I bringing out, when am I releasing it, when is the right time, who is this meant for? Because one of the things that is also killing business is the fact that people are targeting the wrong people for their products and services. So not everybody on social media is for you. Exactly. You understand me? What is my target market demographics? What does my potential customer look like? What is his or her possible name? Where would he be hanging out on a Friday night? Where would he be spending more time on social media, Facebook or Instagram? If it's a makeup business, your customer is on Instagram. If it's a product you're selling, people are on Facebook. You understand me? So you have to get your market right, because that is one of the key drivers of sustainability. The reason why you be sustainable is when you are needed. Why will you be needed? When you are relevant. Why will you be relevant? Because you set a need for a certain targeted customer range. Do you understand me? And just like ice cream, not everybody likes ice cream. So not everybody's going to like what you do. And sometimes people need time to accept you. So it may take a year, 2 or 3.
You just don't give up.
Like a relationship. You have to take time to know the person. So it's just like that. People need to take time, or they need some time to have a connection with your business. Because the reason why somebody will buy a Chanel bag costing $25,000 over a locally manufactured bag is because of the perception, because of the connection they have with the product, that I want to have the feeling of knowing that I have a Chanel bag. It's customer loyalty, and it's brewed from perception. You understand me? So also now we come to the matter of perception. If you're going to be sustainable, what is the idea people would have about you? You have to define that idea. You have the power to define your brand, because what you say your brand is becomes your brand. Just like life, what the meaning you give your life becomes your life. So the meaning you give your business becomes your business.
Becomes your image as well.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Let me take a final words. Very quick one. Let me start with you, Prince.
Okay, so as young people, for me, I'll keep on saying it again, that experience is very important. Don't be afraid of starting. And when it's very necessary for you to give up to, try and wait and see whether it's for the good or it's for the bad. And we have a lot of things that we have to share with the future. And we have a lot of things that we cannot give as excuse because we've not done. This is a time, as far as we are young, we have the energy, we have the time, we have the resources now to be able to make
mistakes and correct them.
Exactly, and to make the best out of whatever we do. If whether we're going to commit mistakes, whether we're going to fail, we're going to succeed. And I want young people to have story. If you grow up one day, what story are you going to tell people?
Sure.
So I see lots of young people trying to, not start anything at all because they are afraid that something might happen. But I think that we all need a story so that one day we can look back and tell ourselves that we've done well or we've not done well. So as young people, not give up and let's just keep on doing what we are passionate about. And even though we know that passion alone will not take us there, so we add more things
passion
to it.
Passion is the basic thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let me take your...
Yes. So final words. I'll look into the camera so I'll talk to them directly. Yeah. So final words to everyone. I will go back to the basics. Okay. Why did God make man? God made us to take dominion over the things that he had created. Okay, so God expects us to continue creation. And I connect entrepreneurship or even starting anything to, I connect it to like living your best life. Am I living my best life? What is my best life? Is the one I define it to be. Life is too short for you to not live your best life. Life is too short to live in the shadows of people. And funny enough, sometimes people love you because you are in their shadows. People love you because they are in control of your life. But like I said, there's a natural power to decide who you want to be. There's a natural power you have to decide what you want in life. It's just one life. Don't live it thinking it's one life. You only live one, so you have to go all out there and do all the nasty stuff. But it's just one life. Live your best life. Define your life and live it the way you want to live it. And I know that people should know there's a charge on our lives as not just young people. I know old people are watching this as well. There's a charge on our lives as humans. What is the return on investment that God is making out of your living? Why should God give you the next minute, and the next minute, and the next hour, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after, and the years after? You have to give him a correct reason why you are relevant to his sustainable development plan for the world. That this person is going to draw in a lot of people into this and win these kind of souls for this purpose. And also linking into entrepreneurship. Maybe your entrepreneurship may be your album you have to release. Maybe your book you have to write. Maybe it's something you need to start. Maybe it's a project you need to start. It may not be necessarily
or an
business.
idea you need to share with somebody.
Exactly. Just know that it is time. The perfect time is now, and now is the perfect time. And the time is right because you make the time right. And so take charge of the time you have. We have as young people, as old people, whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that you want to do it right now. And also lastly, fight your fear. Nothing should scare you. You should rather be afraid of one day sitting on heaven's lonely bench and looking back and thinking, I could have done this. Oh my God, I could have done it. And then God will tell you that if you had released that book, you would have made 10 million sales and you didn't release it. If you had started a business, you would have made that sales and you didn't do it. That should be your fear, that one day you will be lonely on heaven's lonely bench and look back and regret. And lastly, you should get a copy of my book.
Everything is in there.
Everything is in there. Good. I mean, I've shared in here the principles that I've applied as a young CEO, you know, and this one is Testing the Paint, is the first reel I've released, and it's a subtitle, Growing into the Role of the CEO. I've shared in here how to even sell your business to a potential customer investor in 60 seconds. I've shared in here the principles I've applied. Principle of patience, consistency, principle of purpose, principle of sustainability for your business, growth and expansion. And I shared in here my whole experience of starting my business in Kenya as a young Ghanaian entrepreneur. You should get a couple 15 CDs per.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to the show and sharing your knowledge and experience with young people on the continent. I know greater works are with us, and a lot of things. I know tomorrow we will take over the continent, create sustainable businesses, employ more people, and make sure that Africa becomes the best continent globally. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having us.
Viewers, this is AAU Talks. Thank you so much for staying tuned. My name is Kwesi Sam. See you soon.
I'm here with the Association of African Universities Television, AUTV. I just want to say that without the media, you won't know what's going on in the world. Even with the media, you sometimes don't know what's going on in the world. So you need to tune in to the reliable sources who are really on the front lines, who can give you the information you need and give you facts, not conjecture, give you real news, not fake news. And this is the place to find it, AUTV.
The voice of higher education in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the maiden edition of the Agenda 2063 series on African Continental Free Trade Area. We're happy to be here in a discussion on the Continental Free Trade Area and why it's so important. Very quickly after I'm done, we're going to quickly go into the segment which looks at the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, why it's important in the context of Agenda 2063. When I return, we'll have a quick discussion with an introduction of our guests who will help us understand why today's maiden show is so important.
Are you an institution or individual? Do you intend to organize a memorable event to be archived for future reference? Then look no further than AAU Studios, because it's your best bet with our spacious studio and state-of-the-art media equipment such as 4K Panasonic video cameras, KinoFlow lights, assorted microphones, live streaming equipment, among others. You are sure to get the best of productions. Visit us at Trinity Avenue, East Legon, adjacent the National Accreditation Board, or contact the AAU Studios via the following email addresses: info@aau.org, AAUTV@aau.org, or ransford@aau.org. Alternatively, you can call us on +233 244 736280.
All right, so welcome back from the break. Thank you for, once again, this association with the AAU TV, who are also on Facebook and YouTube. The whole idea right now with the Africa Peer Review Mechanism is that the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, as per a retreat in Addis Ababa in November 2018, it was decided by the Council of Ministers that the Africa Peer Review's mandate would be expanded to look more closely at African governance. So to that end, the mandate of the African Peer Review Mechanism was expanded. You will or may not know that the Africa Peer Review Mechanism started as far back as 2003, but it started 2003, and Ghana was one of the pioneers of the Africa Peer Review Mechanism. Why it's so important now when in the discussion of Agenda 2063 is because as in the year in which we are discussing silencing of the guns, which is the theme of the African Union right now, governance comes under question. And the African Peer Review Mechanism looms large because right now, as per the Peace and Security Council resolution, recent one, 899th communique, it was stated quite clearly that member states should be encouraged to start encouraging themselves, peer review otherwise, to push forward the whole theme of African governance, including making sure that African member states accede to the peer review. Right now we have around 38 member states that have acceded to the peer review mechanism. There are 55 member states of the AAU, so there's still quite some work to do. So that by 2023, which is the hashtag for the Africa Peer Review Mechanism at the moment, there will be at least all the AU member states would have acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism. For us, and for the conversation on Agenda 2063 is so important because the history will tell us that the Africa Peer Review Mechanism predicted the violence in Kenya in 2008. It also predicted the xenophobia that we have seen in South Africa. To that end, it's a very important conflict resolution tool. In Kenya at the moment, they are looking at counties, and how they can adopt it at the local level. We understand that an Africa Peer Review Mechanism team will be coming to Accra soon to have a second review of how parameters on governance are like. And so these are some of the things that we want to talk about in this segment of APRM Watch so that people get a sense of why APRM is important and will continue to be an important element in the whole conversation on Africa's governance going forward. So that quickly rounds up the APRM Watch. We're going to take a quick break and we'll return to the studio to our guests right here.
Kampala International University, you are the torch that lights our path. In you we see a future bright, and by you the nation gaineth from services pure. The emblem that you chose is the message, unique in great and true in the giants. With such a heightened success is true, but with such a size not task is surmountable. Equipped with knowledge, down to earth, we go out of your gates with dignity. May your vision bright and knowledge so above be manifested.
Okay, so welcome back from the break. I'm very happy to have my two guests in the studio. To my right, I have Louis Yao Afo, who is Executive Director of the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFTA Policy Network, Ghana and Diaspora. And then I also have to his right, Reverend Dr. Samuel Olanio Mensah, who is a staffer at Wisconsin University. He's a very big man. And he's also a director at the AFTA Policy Network. So gentlemen, welcome to the studios of Association of African University TV. Happy to have you here to have this very important discussion on the African Continental Free Trade Area. So the kind of questions really people want to know and want to start off with is why the Continental Free Trade Area, why the hosting in Ghana? What's so special about Ghana that it needs to be hosted right here. And then maybe you could segue that into helping us understand why your network was formed, because some little birdies have told me that in August 2019, the network was celebrated at an audience of Ministry of Trade and all these at the 3-day conference. And so help us to understand why it's become this apparently fastest growing network around the continental free trade area. So we're going to start off with you, Mr. Lewis Yao Afo. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule to speak with us.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. And good morning to my colleague. Okay. Basically, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it is the right time it should come, because Africa has been looking for an economic integration for a very long time. And over the years, there have been various regional blocks of integration, but Continental Free Trade Agreement sums it up all. It's not doing away with the existing trade agreements. It is rather coming to become an umbrella of all of them, whereby you have 54 member states coming together to trade. The importance of it is that at the end of the day, you're going to have a bigger economy. Unfortunately, though, we are still going to be closer to India, because then we're going to have the second largest free trade area after the World Trade Organization. Wow. And so that is key. And it's also significant because at the end of the day, it's going to boost a lot of exports, boost an intra-African trade, so that a lot of people, companies that were not able to do certain capacity of exports to the European market, to the American market, can now conserve within African markets. And you can have all the spiritual implications that will come because of such kind of agreement. For our network, it was formed because at the end of it, some of us were doing some consultancy for the African Union on the continental free trade, and we realized that there is a need to put all stakeholders together. And so the network was formed to put together most of our professionals, with about 220 professionals globally who are on the network, and we use a different management system whereby people can contribute their expertise virtually, so virtual faces, virtual professional expertise, to implement a continental free trade by becoming kind of an agency to governments and to institutions, private sector, and the public at large. And so we were recommended last year, August, as you mentioned, by the Chief Technical Advisor or the head of the CFTA at that time, for championing the cause of continental free trade on the globe or on African continent.
Fantastic. Let's stick still with education. Reverend Molanio Mensah, you teach at Wisconsin University, and I understand they do courses on international affairs and so on at the master's level and these kind of things. Maybe you can tell us, are the students familiar with this whole continental free trade area? And have they started, do they even know that it's coming to Ghana? And why, and if they don't, what is it that you think needs to quickly be done so that, you know, some of your students can start appreciating the fact that, you know, a huge organization under the AAU is coming to town?
Thank you very much. And I think by and large you realize that Africa have seen some form of political independence for some time, and over the past decades, we've been struggling to gain an economic independence, and that is the only way that African countries can develop and be able to develop our potentials. So there is a need for us to do social orientations to be able to educate the public, our constituents, our various countries, our various states, as to why there is the need for us to do development in an integrated manner. So I think this whole program was designed by the Indian government in 1978, fully launched in 1980. But even India itself was not able to implement it well. So China needs to send its experts to understudy the whole program. And China is now a well-developed class economy in the world. And because in the 80s, you see China to be a very big village, but now China is now a level player industry in the world. Now, coming back to the model, you realize that there is a need for us to be able to bridge the gap between the rich and poor. And if really we want to eradicate poverty in our shores, then the only way for us to do is to be able to develop our potentials. Now, you realize that there are so many potentials in our individual countries,
Yes.
but these potentials has never been utilized effectively and efficiently.
Okay.
Meaning that there are systems, there are mechanisms, there are products that are in Ghana that may be needed in Benin or maybe South Africa, but because we have blocks, we have obstacles, we have barriers to this trade. So at the end of the day, we are only experiencing post-harvest losses. So we are not encouraging our various countries to go into industrialization, to be able to go into high level of productivity, to be self-sufficient. So at the end of the day, our farmers have become peasant farming. We have limited them to the use of tools like the cutlass and the hoes, because the market is not there. When they produce, there is no available market. So we're trying to remove these barriers so that we'll be able to give credence to whatever our productivity level is. When you look at the way our various domestic currencies are performing in the global market, you realize that it's as a result of not able to have this continental free trade. Because you realize that even currently our CD may be performing quite weak against the international trading currency, simply because when you take the average productivity globally, we may be producing less.
Okay.
Our national productivity level may be less than the average global productivity level, and that may put some form of pressure on the domestic currency, thereby losing value. So what we are trying to do is that we develop a model, and the network tries to educate society, and we are educating various institutions, departments, ministries, and agencies, various universities, associations, and indeed, we are living in the global era, and only the shortest way is to make sure that information reach the people at a timely season, and that will really help to transform society. So I think that the network has come as a game changer and is really affecting lives. If you see the way it has really transformed, and I think that the network has really prepared the grounds, and that may be another reason for which Ghana is now being chosen to host the Secretariat.
Let's stick with the whole issue of value that you talked about. In its recent publication, UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, it was indicated that the whole continental free trade area cannot happen without the discussion on rules of origin and value addition. For a lot of people, this is just economic geek talk. Help us understand why a free trade area cannot happen. We need to have this whole value addition, rules of origin. What is rules of origin?
Now,
and we'll start off with you, and then we'll go to...
Now, you realize that for every developed country, there can be no development without peace.
Okay.
So the first factor, you're looking at peace, and that supposed to be our backrock for sustainable development. So when you look at the SDGs, you also realize that it's really an agenda that UN has really propelled for growth and development. And for that matter, when you also look at the challenges associated with it, you realize that the core problem that African countries are going through is that we are not able to develop our raw materials into a secondary production.
Okay.
So we are not adding value to our raw materials. So we just extract it and export. And once that you do that, then your economy will surely be operating on an import-led economy, meaning that you always experience balance of payment deficit because your imports are more than your exports. And once that is done, meaning that your economy will not be resilient. And once your economy is not resilient, you cannot develop. The only way you can develop, as our president even is championing, is going beyond aid. And going beyond aid means that you should champion industrialization. And industrialization also goes with productivity. And the productivity, you realize that needs to use raw materials, which also depends highly on the agri sector. So once the agri sector is weak, your economy is likely to scramble. Now you realize that when there is a discovery of oil, oil economy normally tries to subvert the will of agri sector because everybody wants to make quick money. But then the agri sector really carries. it really holds the breadth of every economy.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do and what the network is trying to do is that we are educating society, educating various industry players that now, look, we need to call a spade and not a big spoon. It's time that there is a saying that a blow inevitably yours when earlier receive will extricate you from torrential hostilities, and we have no time to waste at all.
Yes.
What we must do now is that we must stop exporting our raw materials. We now need to drop programs and policies that the companies that are in US, UK, and all other places that are using our raw materials to manufacture or produce goods and commodities. Now we want them to come right here, set up the same companies here, produce one. When that is done, we have been able to solve the problem of unemployment. When that is done, we have been able to expand the economy. When that is done, we have been able to get more revenue. Once we receive more revenue, we have money for infrastructure development. When we do infrastructure development now, transportation becomes key because every production depends on transportation and energy. So you realize that we are championing the cost of energy. We need to be energy sufficient. So once that is done, you realize that we have really set the standard, the base for a divine takeoff.
And so, Reverend Molanyo, we're going to quickly unpack this thing that you talked about, transport. I'm going to revisit it in a moment. But I want to turn to you, Mr. Afo. So this whole, exports, Reverend Molanyo Mensah talked about exports. Are exports the panacea for this value addition? Everyone now is talking about value addition. So you take your cocoa and then you add value to it. We've been doing it for many years and still making money. Why do we need to do anything extra to it? Why can't we just say, after it's now in Ghana, the Secretariat, let's manage it like that and we'll still get our money? Why do we need to press on the value addition?
I think that you asked about the rules of origin. Yeah. The rules of origin basically are rules when you go to any free trade area, that you have to satisfy a condition of taking a product from one country to another. Okay, so it's like before country A, you are exporting to country B. You might meet the conditions that country B is expecting concerning that product, and it's all about tariff rules. And so it's, if the product that you are sending meets its requirement, then of course, then it also gets back to tell you, does it meet a certain standard of tariff akin to that product? Or if that product is refused entry into the country, why? So the rules of origin enables the kind of rules and laws that governs tariff concessions, tariff areas, and what have you. Now you talked about value additions. It's very important. It has been there, yes, it has been there, but you know, like Reverend Doctor said, African economies have always been raw. Okay, the world has gone beyond even secondary products to tertiary, to service. It has even gone beyond tertiary to service industries. The developed countries have finished even service industry and they don't know even what to do and have even come back to recessions. The problem is that I always keep on saying that even if you look at Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage, where we are picking the value additions from, Ricardo's theory is obsolete. Why? Because Ricardo was looking at the theory at the time that capital was immobile. But now capital is mobile under globalization. And so people and economies are restructuring their bases well, such that if I can do within cocoa sector, what are the stages of additions that can be gained, which can form basis of stages of employment avenues, so that if I take cocoa as a product itself, and maybe you take about 5 people or 5 categories of chains. One can be the cocoa beans itself. The second can be a manufacturing base for producing cocoa powder, meal, what have you. The next stage could be out of that. Some can also use it for medicinal purposes. Then another. That is the chains. That's the value addition chains. So at the end of the day, it creates at every value stage employment, at every value stage benefit, at every value stage something out of it. Now, one important thing that Doctor said about, and I just want to throw more light, is that you see, basically, you have to identify a product and a market. In order to really benefit from the continental free trade, you have to identify a product and its market. Africa used to export products to European Union and then US and what have you, but they were not getting a lot of value in return because it was not a finished product with serious value additions. And so what happened was that at the end of the day, they always have quotas restricting the type of the quantity that's supposed the quantity that's supposed to come to the market. Now with the continental free trade, you are not looking too far. You are doing intra-African trade.
Right now it's very low, 10, 11, 12%
yes.
or so.
So for example, if Ghana, West Africa here, you couldn't have exported school uniforms to maybe Europe. In Ghana, now with the continental free trade coming, to boost export, you can identify Nigerian market and say that, look, I want to export uniforms. Look at the market, about 200 million people. And so you couldn't have taken it to Europe. But under the free trade, free movement of goods and services, if it meets the criteria, the rules of origin, and you're able to export it freely under that category, immediately your export base is enlarged, and you create job for people. Then again, you can look at, let's go to a country like Ethiopia. They like the market of aluminium, utensils. It is so much here. You identify the product, you identify the market. You look at something like Seychelles, which depends so much on Brazil for butter. And you say, look, I want to manufacture butter to Seychelles. It creates a startup for you. And so the export we are talking about is to conserve the foreign exchange that Dr. Walanya was talking about, so that it will not come from outside, but there will be intra-African trade. So for example, if you were able to export 20% to European market, and your cost of export, the rate of export was too high. Now with the African Continental Free Trade protocols, you will conserve that 80% within Africa, and your cost of export rate becomes a bit lower. So therefore, it means that it enables you to have such kind of revenues.
Okay, so we're going to quickly take a break, and we'll be right back.
4 years ago, like most young people, I was clueless as to what I wanted to do and which institution would help me realize a great career. What better place to pursue this dream than Blue Crest College? With state-of-the-art lecture halls and experienced lecturers, as well as equipped computer labs, Blue Crest is indeed the right starting point. With certificate, diploma and degree programs in information technology, business administration, journalism, oil and gas, Blue Crest is the one-stop institute for everyone who is looking to have a great career. Enroll now. Visit www.bluecrest.edu.gh or call any of the numbers on the screen. Blue Crest College. Education for life.
Welcome back from the break. Thank you once again. Let me just quickly remind you that the Association of African Universities is on YouTube. You can also find them on Facebook, and we'll be communicating the Twitter handles very shortly. But just back to our guests, Reverend Walanya Mensah and Mr. Luziao Afo. Just want you to quickly land on the point that you were making about Seychelles and butter. Seychelles and butter. I mean, how
the Seychelles depends on Brazil for butter. They are on an island. I'm saying that it is imperative upon, if Ghana want to benefit, or any other African country, you identify the product first and the market, so that will boost your intra-African exports. And I'm saying that when the export of 80% cost rate is here, it helps you to conserve your revenue.
Okay, here on the continent, that's what
when you were previously, when you were spending your revenue pay against your cost, because the cost of export rate going outside Africa is so high that you get little even out of it. And I'm saying that with the intra-African trade, you get the product for the right market, and then you increase your volume to 80%, and then your cost of export rate becomes low, and then you conserve, because then you'll be able to have more revenue for employment. So I'm saying that it is up to member states to be able to identify what product I'm selling where, including IT, startups, the kind of Silicon Valleys that we have can be here. I know right now a lot of the youth coming out with strong apps for various solutions, not hardware, even apps that can solve society societal problems and what have you. These are areas that we need. And then finally, too, you realize that we are talking about, but we are not talking about commodity goods alone. We are talking about skills. So under connected free trade, because it's a freedom of people, movement of people. So we are saying that if you are in Ghana, for example, Mauritius is about 85% service industry. And I'm saying that if you finish your profession, you're in banking, and you realize that maybe the job market here is choked, you can move to associates under the protocol of free movement of people and go and work there. So you export your skills.
Viewers, I hope you have been listening very carefully to the discussions that we've been having. Right now, you don't have to, Ghana is no longer your home. Africa is no longer an island unto itself. You can move across the continent freely. Already we have it with ECOWAS. Visa-free in ECOWAS, visa-free in East Africa. The other regions are struggling a bit, but we'll get there. The Freedom of Movement Protocol is an important discussion that we definitely need to have. Let me just quickly remind you that you can drop your comments on Association of African University TV. You can find it on YouTube. You can also find it on Facebook. You can also do a quick search of it on Twitter. I will give you the specific handles for Twitter very shortly. But just to let you know that there's a lot of hope along the horizon. And so just let us know the kind of thoughts, the fears, the issues that you think we may need to address along the continental free trade area. But let me just quickly get back to you, Reverend Wodani Mensah. All of these nice things that you're talking about, it's very nice. It's great discussions, economic theories, value addition, and so on. But couldn't this just simply have been addressed by bringing together some experts to have a conversation? And why does Ghana even feature in it at all? Why do we need the whole secretariat located in a country like Ghana to, ensure that these things can happen? Why don't we just bring experts together and say this is what we need to do?
Thank you very much. I think even the bears even have a resting place. So administratively, it's laudable that once you have a vision, you should be able to have a station as to where when everybody wants to find out an information, should be able to get such data or information from a particular point. Now, notwithstanding that, you realize that the continental free trade is not only selling our goods, but equally promoting FDI, foreign direct investments. So what we are trying to do is to encourage our entrepreneurs, our businessmen and women who have the potentials and the capacity. Even various governments can equally help them to establish the subsidiary companies in the African sub-region. So if assuming that we have a company like maybe Coca-Cola, that wanted to have a subsidiary in Togo or in Benin, in Nigeria, we are also ready to encourage it. So the Secretariat is going to serve and is really going to service everybody's concern. So what we are also looking at is that once we are able to encourage foreign direct investment, it's really going to solve the problem of unemployment. Because what we have seen is that because much of the youths are unemployed, we have allowed them to engage in other criminal activities. Some have joined Boko Haram and all others. Most at times just because the jobs are not there. So they just want to find an ends meet. So what we are trying to do is that we need to solve the problems bottom-up approach. We really want to take power, authority, development from our various governments, our political leaders, down to business leaders. And that is the only way that the continent can really develop.
Our time is almost up, and I'm going to hold you on the whole idea of the business and private sector, which would be the topic for the next, for the continuation of this in the next edition, the whole idea of the business and private sector. So I just wanted to hold you to that so that viewers would expect to see you again in the next edition. So go ahead.
So you realize that the private sector is the engine of growth, and once that the private sector fails to function, the whole governance fails to function. So what we need to do now is to encourage individuals who are entrepreneurs, who have the zeal, who have the ambition, who have the vision, who have the foresight to go into a high level of productivity, production, and that of manufacturing. So we are equally encouraging, and already the Secretariat has not fully started operation, but the kind of services the network is providing may be equal to the same services that the Secretariat may fully render when it's fully implemented. So what we are trying to do is that those who have very big businesses, companies and others, this is the time, this is the opportunity for us. We should really put our houses in order because we are about to take action.
And so in wrapping up, let me just quickly say that, and I'll turn to you, Mr. Afo, and then I'll come to you, that there was some information going around from the Economist Intelligence Unit that it is unlikely that the Continental Free Trade Area will be launched July 2020 because of the usual things that are happening on the continent, peace issues and so on and so forth. What's your take on that, so that we can use that to launch the next discussion?
I mean, that is an assertion, but that might not necessarily be true, because it's like a normal stock exchange. What do you need to open a stock exchange? When the members are present, or the traders or the brokers are inside the chamber or inside the trading hall, and the bell is rung, you start the stock exchange. In the same way, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, member states have ratified already. Okay, and we needed a certain number. We have 28 needed to ratify. They've ratified. All we need to do is the host country, the president, will inaugurate the building and say that this has now been inaugurated. It becomes an independent body of the African Union, and therefore, what happens again? Ceremony is done and trading starts. There will be hitches along the line, but this is not where it's like going from a physical market to another physical market. No, you have representatives. If you have compliance issues, the Secretariat is functioning. They have their staff filled already, and you can make a compliance issues. Just as trading has been going on already on the borders, the only difference is that at the end of the day, the rules of origin would take time for people to acquaint themselves with it, because like I said earlier, you have about 500 pages of rules of origins that are going to be given to customs of various member states. So it's not going to be, it will surely be open for trade.
And equally, some people are speculating that we will not be able to meet the convergent criteria, and various political leaders may not have the political will to execute or to support. But that is an old Michael Jackson thing, and we are ever ready for action.
All right. So it looks like, according to the words of the network, we are poised for action. To deliver intra-African trade, to move it from 10, 11, 12% to 52, 53, 54% that the UN Economic Commission Africa has been projecting in studies. And so clearly the whole conversation on the Continental Free Trade Area is timely, it's very important. We are just entering February. The Secretariat is going to be opening in March, and so the time for discussion is even too late. But it's always better late than never. So we're very happy to have had our two guests in the studio from the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Policy Network. Gentlemen, thank you for making time out of your busy schedules to speak with us. And we are very confident that you'll be here next time, where we'll be focusing on a lot more specific areas, like the freedom of movement protocol, the private sector, which will be a lot of interest, attract a lot of interest to people who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to start their own business without always relying on government. I think those are areas where people will be keen to learn more about. So thank you once again for gracing this beautiful day with your presence. And we hope to speak to you again next time. Please remember to drop your comments on the YouTube channel, Association of African Universities TV, and also the Facebook. A quick search, you'll find it, and on Twitter as well. My name is Emmanuel K. Benson Jr. I'm your host for this after series. I hope to see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Partnership for Skills in Applied Sciences, Engineering and Technology, PASSET, is calling for applications for its Regional Scholarship and Innovation Fund, RSIF PhD scholarships, funded by African governments, the World Bank and the government of Korea, and facilitated by the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology, ICIPE, in Nairobi, Kenya. The RSIF aims to train quality PhD students and postdoctoral researchers at selected African universities to address the human resource gap in the fields of applied sciences, engineering and technology, assets in sub-Saharan Africa. Specifically, RSIF supports training, research and innovation in ICT, including big data and artificial intelligence, food security and agribusiness, minerals, mining and material engineering, energy including renewables, and climate change. This call for application to the PASSET RSIF PhD scholarship program is open to candidates interested in receiving international quality PhD training. Applicants apply for a scholarship to conduct PhD research in a PASSET priority thematic area at one of African host universities. Independent selection panels will review applications to select candidates for scholarship awards. Once scholarships are awarded, successful candidates will be instructed to register with their selected African host university. Further details will be provided at this time. The duration of the PhD scholarship is 3 to 4 years, including a 6 to 24 month assignment at an international partner university, research institute, or private company. RSIF PhD scholarship will be awarded in September 2020. To be eligible for this scholarship, applicants must have a relevant master's degree in one of the fields of study. The master's degree must have been completed less than 6 years before 30th April 2020. Meet the specific admission requirements of the African host university they are applying to. Be a citizen of a sub-Saharan African country. Be willing to enroll full-time in a PhD program at an African host university in the 2020 to 2021 academic year. Be willing to spend 6 to 24 months in sandwich training in an international partner university, research institute, or private company. Demonstrate that their research goals are well aligned to the RSIF priority thematic areas and contribute to Africa's development. As well as priority for the scholarships will be given to women and existing young academic faculty PhD. Interested applicants should apply through the online application platform www.rsif-passet.org/calls/ before 15th June 2020. For further information, kindly email rsifscholarships@icipe.org or visit www.rsif-passet.org. You can also call +254 20 632 000.
Le partenariat pour le développement des compétences en sciences appliquées, ingénierie et technologie PASSET lance un appel à candidature pour ses bourses de doctorat du Fonds régional de bourses d'études et d'innovation RSIF financé par les gouvernements africains, la Banque mondiale et le gouvernement de Corée et facilité par le Centre international de physiologie et d'écologie des insectes, ICP, à Nairobi au Kenya. Le RSIF vise à fournir une formation de qualité aux chercheurs doctorants et postdoctoraux au sein de certaines universités africaines, afin de combler le déficit en ressources humaines dans les domaines des sciences appliquées, de l'ingénierie et de la technologie assets en Afrique subsaharienne. Précisément, le RSIF soutient la formation, la recherche et l'innovation dans les domaines suivants. Et ici, y compris Big Data et intelligence artificielle, sécurité alimentaire et agroalimentaire, génie des minerais, des mines et des matériaux, énergie renouvelable et changement climatique. Le présent appel à candidature pour le programme de bourse de doctorat PASSET RSIF est ouvert aux candidats souhaitant suivre une formation doctorale de niveau international. Les candidats présentant leur candidature à une bourse d'études de doctorat destinée à la recherche dans un domaine thématique prioritaire du PASSET au sein de l'une des universités hautes africaines. Les comités de sélection indépendants examineront les candidatures afin de sélectionner les candidats qui recevront les bourses. Une fois les bourses attribuées, les candidats sélectionnés devront s'inscrire auprès de leurs universités hôtes. À ce stade, de plus amples informations seront fournies. La durée de la bourse de doctorat est de 3 à 4 ans, dont un stage de séjour de 6 à 24 mois au sein d'une université internationale partenaire, d'un institut de recherche ou d'une entreprise privée. Les bourses de doctorat de la RSIF seront attribuées en septembre 2020. Pour être éligible à cette bourse, le candidat doit avoir un master portant sur l'un des domaines d'études. Le master doit avoir été obtenu moins de 6 ans avant le 30 avril 2020. Il doit remplir les conditions d'admissibilité spécifiques de l'université haute africaine à laquelle il postule. Il doit être ressortissant d'un pays d'Afrique subsaharienne, être prêt à suivre un programme de doctorat à temps plein au sein d'une université haute africaine au cours de l'année universitaire 2020-2021. Être prêt à effectuer un stage de séjour de 6 à 24 mois au sein d'une université internationale partenaire, d'un institut de recherche ou d'une entreprise privée. Prouver que leur objectif de recherche s'inscrit dans le cadre des domaines thématiques prioritaires du RSIF et contribuer au développement de l'Afrique. Et pour l'octroi des bourses, la priorité sera donnée aux femmes et aux jeunes assistants d'université non encore titulaires d'un doctorat. Les candidats intéressés doivent présenter leur candidature par l'intermédiaire de la plateforme de candidature en ligne www.rsif-facet.org/courts avant le 15 juin 2020. Pour de plus amples informations, veuillez envoyer un courriel à rsifscholarships@icp.org ou consulter le site www.rsif-facet.org. Vous pouvez également appeler le +254 20 63 20 00.
That is all for today's update. Event Update is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. Please follow us on our social media platforms at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AAU TV _African Universities on Twitter, and AAU TV Official on Instagram. I am Isabella Titahinakwa. Je m'appelle Lesum Baba Johnson.
The COVID-19 pandemic has necessitated the need for higher education institutions to establish their impact through applied research. It is in this regard that the Africa Centers of Excellence for Impact Project, a higher education project supporting universities in West Africa, has engaged in groundbreaking researches in managing the virus within the sub-region. The 53 centers across the continent are putting in place measures to manage the pandemic in their respective countries. In Nigeria, the Africa Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases, ACEGID, at Redeemers University, in coordination with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, was the first institution in Africa to successfully sequence genomes of SARS-CoV-2, which is the COVID-19 virus. This will strengthen surveillance for tracking mutations of the virus. The center has also developed a COVID-19 screening tool to measure individual risk level. Also, ACEGID seeks to use advanced genomics science to accelerate the production of a homemade vaccine against the virus. The West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACBIP, a cell biology research center dedicated to the diagnostics of tropical diseases in sub-Saharan Africa at the University of Ghana, has also successfully sequenced genomes of SARS-CoV-2. This is a milestone in Ghana's response to the pandemic, as it will aid in the tracing of the sources of community infections in people with no known contact with confirmed cases. Other centers of excellence are contributing to knowledge on management of the virus through innovative research. Centers such as the Regional Transport Research and Education, TREC, hosted by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, examined how the COVID-19 is spreading in time and into new areas, its impact on urban mobility, and the environmental effect of the lockdown. To support continuous teaching and learning in their respective institutions, the Africa Centers of Excellence are adopting innovative measures by moving classes online, Learning management systems such as Moodle, Sakai, Google Classroom, among others, are being used. The Africa Center of Excellence project is a flagship program where the World Bank, in partnership with the French Development Agency, AFD, and regional partners such as the Association of African Universities and ECOWAS, are supporting African governments to invest in quality postgraduate education and applied research.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Ehouan-Ehilé. Je suis le secrétaire général de l'Association des universités africaines qui est basée à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaines. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Nodumo Dlamini. I'm the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities in Africa. The biggest value that the universities benefit from being members of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa, and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy. And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, a été une décade où la plupart des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, disons, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation était une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Et sur ce plan-là, les universités aussi se sont organisées grâce à l'UNESCO, qui a parrainé plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and the Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education in Africa.
The AAU is the apex organization and principal forum for consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkusa Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU is a main driver from the angle of training and capacitating the human resources of the continent, the agenda of the African Union 2063. So if an institution is not on board, it is missing the opportunity to leverage on the opportunities that are provided by the association in the area of training, human resource capital, training their own staff and students, the opportunities that are provided by the universalization of quality management on higher education on the continent, and many other opportunities that are provided.
Et en 1963, il y a eu une réunion à Khartoum, au Soudan, où les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont décidé de créer l'Association des universités africaines. Finalement, la création va se faire à une conférence qui s'est tenue à Rabat au Maroc, et la création de l'Association des universités africaines a eu lieu le 12 novembre 1967.
I'm Prof. Hassan Kafi, AAU Governing Board member representing for East African region. Also, I am the president of Plasma University, Mogadishu, Somalia. We really like to give a call for universities in Africa, especially in East Africa, those which are not members still in the Association of African Universities. We are calling them because we feel the organization is ours. It represents the voice of higher education in Africa being seen all over the world.
And as we know, smartphone connectivity has already transformed much of the way how students are accessing higher education in Africa. So we will see what kind of what kind of experiences you now have in the continent, and what do you think, where are the bottlenecks and where are the opportunities for the future? So everybody very much welcome, and I give over to Kaisa again. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And as part of our project, I have authored a policy note that actually was published this week. It hasn't been launched yet, but I'm sharing it here as a soft launch with you. It's called Resources, Relevance and Impacts, and it talks about the key challenges for universities in Africa. And it forms part of kind of a larger, I will share the link to it in an email after we meet today. I think it shares kind of an idea of a larger context, just like Lisa was talking about. Universities are interconnected in the whole world, but we also see challenges being the same all over the world, but also peculiar to the African continent. And I was part of a webinar the other day organized by the International Association of Universities, the AAU. And there's a professor there from Ethiopia, Professor Tamrat, and he was talking about the previous normal and the new normal. So I borrowed a little bit from him and I added a few points. But I think just before we launch into the discussion, it's kind of important to contextualize a little bit. The previous normal for the continent was growing economies for most countries, some with the highest growth in the world. We could see kind of a predicted growth. We had a growing young population as well, which meant that economies were expanding. Universities are having a key role in this development, but of course access is highly unequal. Even when universities admit more students, the share of poor students is still relatively small from poor households, and it's more the elites that have access to higher education. Digitalization was budding, but also had huge barriers, such as low bandwidth, high costs, and of course, power irregularities. Our societies were interconnected, but there was also huge dependency on foreign solutions. Now we're into a new normal. Economies all over the world are contracting, but there's huge uncertainty. We don't know when this crisis is ending. We don't know exactly how it will affect us, but we can guess that it will affect the people who are already struggling more than the others. We're now focused on protecting lives and livelihoods. Universities have closed all over the world. What did I have my numbers on that? I think it was it 9.8 million students on the continent that are currently not going to university as they usually were before. So we have been thrown into online learning and working from home. Many countries are experiencing lockdowns and or slow reopenings. And in the seminar with Professor Tamrat, he was talking about the silver lining that where the dependency was on foreign solutions before, you can already see that now you're on your own. So you have to find local solutions and homegrown solutions. And that means he was suggesting a kind of a new approach, a new mindset. So that was just a little bit of context to this conversation. And today we're focusing on access and digitalization. And I think with that, as planned, we're launching into the presentations a little bit early. Desire, can I call on you? Are you ready to share with us your presentation? COVID-19 lockdown. Can South African universities guarantee quality e-learning for students with disabilities? The floor is yours. If you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so you have 10 minutes, and I've asked Camilla to be our timekeeper. So she will let you know when you have 3 minutes left, and then when you have 1 minute left, and then we ask that you wrap up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you too. And those of you who feel more comfortable turning off your camera, you can do so.
Hi everyone, my name is Desire Chiwandire. I just finished my PhD at Rhodes University, focusing on the inclusion of students with. So the title for my presentation is COVID-19 Lockdown. Can South African universities guarantee quality e-learning for students with disabilities? So basically, I was mainly interested on the issue of how, Kajsa has already provided the historical background, on how universities internationally have been forced to switch to e-learning, for all students, including students with disabilities. So I won't provide much historical background on that. South Africa is one of the universities which has also resorted to e-learning, and this is a new phenomenon, especially in South Africa and most African universities, to having to focus to adopt e-learning. They've mainly been contact universities. So if you look in the South African context, when it comes to the inclusion of students with disabilities, this is a group of students we have mainly been excluded when it comes to educational opportunities. Why? Because more emphasis has mainly been focused on their non-disabled peers. If there's issues of curriculum, it's always curriculum from the perspective of non-disabled students. So I think it's important for me to begin by defining the concept of inclusive education. So the dominant definition of inclusive education is supporting learners with disabilities so that they are able to be involved with their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent possible. So mainly this is a concept which emphasizes the need for students with disabilities to be supported, on the same level with their non-disabled peers, mainly in what is often referred to as the regular classroom setting. So very often it involves adapting the curriculum in order to ensure that, students with disabilities are equally supported. So when we talk about inclusive education, mainly, there's what I refer to as 5 pillars of inclusive education, So if an educational institution can meet these 5 criteria, then it shows that, that particular educational institution, could be considered as a best practices in terms of supporting students with disabilities. So very often funding is one of the most important aspects of inclusive education. And in South Africa, we've got what is often referred to as NSFAS bursaries, which provides funding for students with disabilities to access higher education, and also provide funding for assistive devices, any form of support which can enable students to succeed. The other supporting mechanism is the provision of reasonable accommodations, which varies depending on the student's disability. Let's say for students with specific learning disabilities, this could come in the form of extra time. And the other aspect is accessible built environment. There is a need for universities to build their buildings in line with the universal design principles so that they can be accessible, particularly for students with physical disabilities or mobility challenges, including those with other disabilities. This could be students with visual impairments. And there's also the provision of assistive devices. This mainly applies to students with visual impairments. And there's also the need to ensure that the curriculum is accessible to students with diverse disabilities. And this involves the role of lecturers. So for purposes of this presentation, I was mainly interested on the impact of COVID learning, through the lens of students with disabilities and support staff members. So I designed a questionnaire which had 5 questions, which I forwarded to students with disabilities at one institution. And I also forwarded it to support staff members. So in the questionnaire, what I was mainly interested in was to explore, which academic year the student is and the faculty, their disability and how the lockdown is affecting or has affected their learning, how their university is supporting them. This could include lecturers, tutors, or any relevant stakeholders within their universities. I was also mainly interested in potential challenges and opportunities of remote learning, that they are currently experiencing. So the questionnaire for disability unit staff members, in Africa, they are often referred to as disability unit staff members, but in other settings, they are referred to as disability coordinators. But yeah, so I was mainly interested on the measures that their unit are actually taking to support students with diverse disabilities, and I wanted to hear from their opinions that which category of students with disabilities are more likely to be affected by remote learning and why. I was also interested on the support, that the lecturers and tutors are providing during the lockdown, if they are doing any form of collaboration. And also I was interested in potential challenges and opportunities, that could be, that emanate from the lockdown. So from the findings, so basically 5 students responded, and most of these students, all of them had invisible disabilities, which ranged from depression, anxiety, epilepsy, and I used snowball sampling, so I contacted one student that I know with an invisible disability, who then referred me to her friends who also contributed to the study. So what I found, the dominant finding amongst students with disabilities, they felt that the university tends to use a one-size-fits-all approach, when it comes to the inclusion of students with disabilities. And this was more of two-sided, that, universities seems to focus mainly on non-disabled students at the cost of disabled students. Even within students with disabilities themselves, they felt that, students with disabilities are treated as a homogeneous group, so with more attention being paid on students with visible disabilities at the cost of students with invisible disabilities. So this is a dominant finding.
3 minutes remaining.
So the other challenge is that, there was the dominant understanding was that, for some students, there was a emphasis, especially from disability unit staff members, that, blind students and those with specific learning disabilities will be disproportionately affected in comparison to their peers. Especially because for blind students, most of them, they rely on assistive devices, they access in disability units. But now that they are learning from home remotely, they don't have access to those assistive devices. The same also applies to students with specific learning disabilities who rely on scribes. Because they are working from home, they will be disadvantaged from that particular access. And also there is an issue of socioeconomic background. In South Africa, universities are divided in historically Black institutions and historically white institutions. So participants from historically Black institutions raised concerns about, how most of the students live in remote areas. So therefore, those students will be more affected when it comes to issues of connectivity. Other participants, disability unit staff members, spoke about how first-year students with disabilities are more likely to be affected because, you know, this group is in its early phase because this was the first semester. So this group is in its early phase of transitioning to university. So most of them are still learning about how to use assistive devices and all that. So they felt that, you know, this group will be more affected. When it comes to opportunities, you know, some students...
1 minute remaining.
Sorry?
1 minute remaining.
When it comes to some students, they felt that, you know, when it comes to opportunities, there will be flexibility, you know, because most universities are quite flexible on deadlines. You know, lecturers are not supposed to impose strict deadlines as they will do if it's conduct sessions. So they felt that, you know, that's an opportunity that could be created by learning from remotely. And some participants felt that the delivery of hard copy material could help them, you know, especially this participant has epilepsy and she was speaking about how she can't stay on the computer for a long time. Other participants felt that, you know, students with physical disabilities are less likely to be affected by learning remotely, you know, especially if they are learning in universities where there is, the built environment is inaccessible. When it comes to some felt that, you know, this will create an opportunity for lecturers to move away from their comfort zone, you know, especially because most lecturers in African universities, including South Africa, have mainly been used to teaching students through contact sessions. So this could encourage them to learn about how to use technology in order to support students from an e-learning standpoint. So in terms of conclusions and recommendations, there was emphasis that, you know, students, lecturers need to learn about universal design for learning, you know, so that they can be able to create and deliver the curriculum that could be accessible to students with diverse disabilities online. And lastly, there was emphasis on connectivity to say, even though the universities are providing laptops, you know, to students with disabilities, it's important to emphasize the issue of connectivity, because without connectivity, some students will be excluded. You know, so online learning could provide equitable opportunities, provided there is adequate opportunities to ensure that, you know, connectivity is enhanced. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Desire, for your presentation. If there are anyone who has questions, you can write your name in the chat. I had a question kind of relating to your last point about connectivity. For the students that you did survey, what was their connectivity situation? Did they have a fixed line at home, or did they get any help from the university, or they used their phones? What was the mode of connectivity, if you want?
So for most of the students, you know, I think this has to do with privilege, because most of this, all the students that I interviewed are from a historically white institution. So most of them seem to have their own laptops, and the institution is providing them with data. So most of them don't necessarily seem to have any challenges with connectivity. The only issue that they had was the issue of not having more opportunities to interact with their supervisors. And also remember, these are postgraduate students. They don't necessarily need to be on, they don't use, they don't have many courses. They're just focusing on their postgraduate studies. Some of them are doing their masters. But it's a different aspect now to historically black institutions, because in these institutions you find out that some students don't even have a laptop.
Yeah.
And they're still waiting for the university to provide them with one.
Yes, imagine to do online studies and online work, working from home without a laptop. That is a challenge. Thank you so much, Desire. I think if there are more questions, we have to push them to the discussion later on. And now we are moving on to Professor Stian Hagberg, and he will talk to us about partnership on a shoestring, how to foster sustainable research networks in Corona times and beyond. Stian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaisa. It's a great pleasure to be here. I've entitled my presentation Partnership on a Shoestring, and let me start by what I mean with that. I think that the partnership is the kind of term used a lot in terms of development cooperation, in terms of academic cooperation. But of course, partnership is also an implication and an expectation of having funding and institutional and muscles and resources in various ways. And what I want to talk about is how to make a partnership on a shoestring, with a low budget, moving on, working in that sense. And I take as my point of departure the research laboratory that we have recently founded between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Uppsala, Sweden. We call it le Laboratoire d'Anthropologie Comparative Engagée et Transnationale. So a research lab for the comparative, engaged, and transnational anthropology. And this is built up of a group of researchers who have been working together. We have been working for years, for a very long time. And finally, we felt the need to set up a research lab that can be an umbrella for lots of our efforts. And we did so without a single dime. We didn't have any money involved in this because we have ongoing research projects, we have ongoing collaborations with specific individuals, but we felt that we need to have something that is beyond a specific program or a specific project and so forth. And we, in this research lab, if you set up a research lab without any specific funding, core funding attached to it, how do you do it? Well, you have to start with a shoestring. And the word for shoestring in French is also in English, by the way, lacet. Lacet, the acronym of the lab, is also to signal that we are working, whether we have money or not, we are working. It's not that we are against having funding, but we find that it's important that academic cooperation and collaboration must be put to the fore. One way of doing this, and this has started well before the Corona times, was to set up a virtual seminar. So we have a virtual seminar that we have launched between these three institutions in Burkina, Mali, and Uppsala. And we started as a virtual classroom. I mean, to have 3 classrooms connected through a video conference system. We did so, and this is to jump out of this research lab, but we also have done so since last year with our Mozambique collaboration between Eduardo Mondlane and Uppsala University, to have a ongoing research seminar, which is not spectacular, which is not fancy, but it's just the ordinary academic work that we do when we share papers, we read student papers, we are sharing viewpoints and so forth. Participants of these seminars have to read the papers in advance, and to do this we use either you can send out the papers, but often we use some of the platforms within Uppsala University called Studium, so we create a space there. The reason why I'm bringing up this is because I think that when we are, and yeah, I should add, now we are planning for Zoom seminars. So in 2 weeks' time, we will have 2 Zoom seminars, one with Eduardo Mondlane on democracy and public engagement in troubled times, in times of crisis. And then we will have another one on ethnographies of insecurity the following day. So the idea here is that instead of focusing on technology, ITC, and so on, we have to focus on pedagogy, what we can as lecturers, what research seminars, how to make it into a meaningful experience, not just into a second best option. So in that sense, I think that to echo what has already been said, I think that what we see in Corona times is that all inequalities that we already know and know well are getting more and more accentuated, because online education requires connection. And I think it's worth remembering James Ferguson's distinction in his book Expectations of Modernity, when he said that disconnection is not the absence of connection, but is being not connected any longer. So it's this feeling of being disconnected. And I think we have all experienced that when we sit in meetings and all of a sudden nobody can hear what you say, or you can't see the images or the PowerPoints and so forth. So in that sense, I think it's so important that we recognize this, and we also find what are the impacts for our own studies and our own research and research collaborations. And I would like really to to emphasize, and this is my main point, that let's not focus on software, but focusing on, I mean, ITC software, but let's focus on pedagogical skills, research skills, and how to do it. A third example of doing a partnership on the shoestring, or at least doing handling this current time, is that I am giving currently a PhD course at Uppsala University, and one of the participants, Marcia, she will be talking afterwards. And in that PhD course, we have 2 Mozambican PhD students in Uppsala, 2 Mozambican PhD students in Maputo, and 1 Swedish student from Lund sitting in the US. So we have been able to do this kind of PhD course despite the Corona times. And I think that is a promising thing. That's something that we should really use as an experience later on. What we also do is that we record all the lectures in order to, if there is this connection, we can also it could be possible for the person to look at the lecture afterwards. This is not to be spread. It's just me standing where I stand now, not very welcome, and I haven't been to the hairdresser for a long time, so I don't want to be shared. It's not my best side, but I think it's a very kind of functional way of approaching issues. I have two more points, and then I will stop. One way that Corona has also impacted my work is that I have been contacted by University Nazi Boni, which is the University of Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina Faso.
3 minutes.
Yeah, and they have Professor Patrice Toué contacted me, and they are now going to launch a study of studying the barrier measures taken by the Burkinabe government, and how citizens, various categories of citizens, are experiencing all these restrictions on political and social and civic liberties that are taking place in the time of Corona. And I think that is a very innovative way of doing, and gladly they got funding for this, and I will play the role of being a kind of advisor in terms of methodology, because I think it's so important to also to look at what is going on. As for social scientists, we need to study this in one way or another. My last point, I was going to host a big conference on insecurity, beyond the insecurity and crisis in West Africa, here in Uppsala in June this year. And of course, this was extremely frustrating, seeing that it was not going to take place. But we wanted to look into insecurity in terms of military, in terms of citizens' insecurity, violence, political turmoil, and so on. I think that a great impact of the Corona situation will be that we will organize a roundtable on the Corona pandemic in one way or another. So in that sense, I think it will be postponed. We will do it later, but we will also try to find ways of dealing with it. And I think that the lesson we need to, the takeaway that I would like to stress is that the world is as it used to be. It's just very different times we are living in, and that's why we should not start reassessing everything. We have to look.
1 minute.
What are the pedagogical skills that we need to develop? What are the research networks that we need to work for? When we know that funding is insecure, when we know that we might have problems. So that's why we have to think innovatively about how to develop partnerships on a shoestring. Thank you very much.
We're done there, Sim. Thank you very much for your inspiring presentation. Please write your name in the chat box if you have a question for Stian. I was thinking about when you do these seminars on a shoestring, do you feel like, from your experience, maybe also from the PhD course you're talking about, do you need to meet in person before for this to work, or you can kind of start online? Is that possible? So the question is kind of, do we need the personal meetings? We can replace them with Zoom and online technology, or yes,
I think that we would like to meet. I would like to meet all of them. I would like to interact normally with people, but if that's not possible, I think that this opens up for an opportunity in the sense that we can also have chatting time. So what we often do is that I open up the session at 2 o'clock as I open my ordinary classroom, and then students and we can chat. And I think that the Mozambican contingent, they are chatting about what's going on at home and news from the country and so on. And then at 15 minutes past, which is the academic quarter in Uppsala, then we start. And then we also, so we try to encourage this kind of social interaction and so on. I must say, and I think this is maybe an answer to your question, we don't record the seminar part of the session, because I don't think that we should making Big Brother looking at us every time. But I mean, as lecturers, you can give the lecture, you can give the presentation, but the discussion, you have to feel free. You have to, you have to feel that you can be less thought through in the seminar setting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of that time we're going to have an online meeting for the conference you mentioned that now was cancelled. And for some reason, I think a technical issue, you didn't show up on time. So some of us were there waiting for you, and it was a lovely discussion before you showed up.
Yeah.
It was very relaxed.
Yeah.
Henning made a comment in the chat room. I don't know if he wants to make it in person as well before we move on to Mireille. Or was this issue about personal meetings?
Yeah. No, but I don't think that this is a reason for reconsidering having physical meetings, of course. But I do think that we should think, reflect also on our work. And for me, to give a kind of PhD course where access is possible for people across the world is quite interesting, because it could be much more specialized than if I should count on a student population in Uppsala. So I think that we have issues there that we should take as an interesting way to develop our pedagogical skills.
I think that's a very good point, that there are like upsides to the virtual meetings too, that you can have a larger reach, so to say, and a more specialized discussion. With that, I think I want to hand over to Mireille. She is talking to us about the COVID-19 pandemic and adaptation of higher educational digital technologies in Cameroon, where she is doing research and teaching. Mireille, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Hello, everyone. Let me switch to my PowerPoint. Okay. So, hello, everyone. I'm Mireille Mangai-Dimos, lecturer at the Department of International Politics at the International Relations Institute of the University of Yaoundé 2 in Cameroon, and I'm happy to be with you today to share exploratory results on what I've called COVID-19. I've entitled COVID-19 pandemic, and adaptation of higher education in Cameroon to digital technologies. So the outline of this presentation is based on, I can say, 3 main points. The first point will be to talk about, to locate higher education in Cameroon as one of the major entrepreneurs of the National Strategic Plan for Digitalization that have been published and adopted in 2016 for a realization in 2020. And then in the second part of my presentation, I will talk about the link between that national program, that is the e-national higher education program and e-learning Cameroon Public University in normal situation. Before now coming to the last point on the COVID-19 pandemic and impact regarding the rapid policy changes we have been observing for now, and digitalization of courses and programs at the University of Yaoundé 2 and Eric particularly. These are the contexts best known. And I'll conclude my presentation with the challenges and way forward based on personal experience I've had during this particular context. So regarding higher education in Cameroon and the politics of digitalization, it is mentioned in the National Strategy Plan for Cameroon Digitalization that was published in 2016 for realization in 2020 on the page 59 to 61 as one of the major actors of this of the digitalization process in Cameroon. And the objective of such plan is to ensure the availability of quality and quantity of human skills to meet the needs of digital economy and design clean preoccupation related to e-governance in the domain of education in Cameroon. So the opportunity regarding our roundtable today, I think this is the opportunity to assess the role of that particular ministry through public actions carried out by university in the domain of e-learning, e-education, and digitalization and research. So, coming to the first point, e-national higher education program and e-learning public university in Cameroon. First of all, let's say this is the major policy reference of ICT development in higher education, which is called to respond to 7 axes. I can come back to it later if it's necessary. And this national higher education, this program has particularly contributed since 2016 to putting pressure on university on designing that have to design and modernize their website, the first thing, and other virtual platform for more societal visibility, inclusion, and democratization of information as well as for more transparent administrative practices. I explain. Since the program has been put in place, we have observed every 2 years a kind of evaluation that is guided both by CAMES, which is a regional institution of higher education in sub-Saharan Africa, and the ministry itself. The second point is also that it resulted for 3 years now in the student equipment with free laptops and online registration facilities. Regarding the free laptops, these are mobile computers that are offered to every registered student at public university in Cameroon. And another point is that I consider this as an absolute opportunity to opening up to globalization and the broadening of public university visibility. So the question that came into mind regarding the COVID-19 pandemic were about 3, but I will try to answer to them according to my own experience. The first is, does this apply to all public university and higher education program in Cameroon? How do Cameroon Public University embrace e-learning and digitalization in the context of COVID-19 pandemic? And to what may be considered in the COVID-19 pandemic context as the new normal? How do public universities in Cameroon to adapt to digital technologies? So, to answer to those preliminary questions and exploratory research, we have attempted to examine key points. One key point: actions carried out by public university administration as well as lecturers and student reaction in relation to this. Consider that major policy reference we mentioned earlier. And after our preliminary inquiries, what we've realized is that there have been rapid policy changes. So in a situation where there was like, okay, not real engagement regarding the digital technologies, there have been having rapid policy changes, prompt adaptation, but also reluctance or absence. Rapid development of public measures. This has been observed through the diverse public meetings organized to try to find out solutions to the context. There has also been design of e-learning platform within university website and for registered students. But while some of them are really functional from a direct internet access, others are not yet functional, but they are visible on the university website, what is already quite good. The third point is the mobilization.
Remaining.
Yes. The third point is the mobilization of virtual platforms such as radio for teaching purpose for level 1 and 2 students, and intense use of WhatsApp group to share courses and other educative digital contents. Another point is the organization of video conference for e-defense. However, in schools such as ERIC, the above initiatives are still limited to private master programs, which most of them are engaged in international cooperation with other university partners. In this particular case, we also observed that while some lecturers and teachers seem already familiar to professional discussion with their students using digital platforms, others seem in a total process of adaptation. Some categories are used to the utilization of digital technology to share professional contents of all kinds, find it difficult to adapt themselves to digital approach to teaching and group interaction within a fixed hour period. But what has been surprising is definitely the capacity of all the categories to comply with the situation and overcome personal and societal challenge. Regarding the absence as a result, in line with the absence, we have noticed that other public programs offered by the school here in ERIC have been totally interrupted. Planning a resume only in June 1st, 2020 as announced by the government. Regarding the strengths and challenges, the last point, in public university too, students from level 3 to 5 are happy with the initiative for the low cost in terms of access constraint. I'll come back to it maybe through question, constraint and online availability of completed courses program. For my own online experience, teaching online experience using WhatsApp group in a specific program at the I found it the process more demanding. Any written material should be very precise. Imagination works much more. I had to learn to use my phone devices, get to platform on time, and keep students alert for at least 4 hours. So, but beyond this, we have noticed problem of access, some lecturers to digital technology and the inability to share written courses within the interval 20 hours. So maybe I can come back to way forward later. But I think COVID-19 pandemic has been a great opportunity to explore free online platform, digitalize, think about digitalizing library contents and acquire, learn, and try to learn to use library databases. And regarding the time constraint, I think I can end here and come back to discussion later. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mireille. I think it's great work that you've been able to start your research on actually how the COVID crisis is affecting the implementation of plans already there. very positive that they have been fast forwarded. But you mentioned also problems of access, especially for your students. We spoke before today, and you're running an entire course on WhatsApp. Are all your students able to join that course, for instance? What are some of the, you can talk a little bit more on problems of access. And then Michael has a question as well. Yeah.
Yes, I can say if WhatsApp was the solution in that particular case, because this was the cheaper digital technologies available to students, and has a virtual platform. It was also the best alternative for the school that haven't got a more modernized platform, virtual platform. And according to the experience I had, the problem of access, what is interesting here is that the problem of access was not only linked to internet, it was also linked to energy provision, electricity, as there have been many shortage, cutting lights, things like that have been prevented some students to be present at times and attend the course normally. Even me, I've been victim of that electricity shortage. So I think what is interesting here is maybe regarding the digital technologies, it's close relationship with the use of energy, electricity energy, which is also a challenge here in Africa, in Cameroon, in a particular environment. That's why I really focus on the problem of access, and I think this can be the contribution to the debate about linking the both.
Excellent, thank you. Michael had a question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. When I was going through your slide, I was happy to note that since 2016, Cameroon have been kind of getting prepared for such a pandemic. And but I want to ask a question from the universities. Have the universities done enough to digitalize the system? Like, can the students get access to the academic result transcript through the university website? Also, the university, do they have like functioning Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi for the students? Because it's definitely have to start from the universities if they want to go digital. And secondly, the use of radio, like you said, level 3 to 4, they make use of radio.
1 to 2, yes.
Considering the fact that radio broadcast is limited to the view of only the presenter, do you think like is a very good means of lecturing the students? So these are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, J. Michael, for your questions. And regarding the experience from universities, access to transcript via online digital platform, and it all depends. As I said, it all depends. There are some universities that have been able to adapt quickly because they on their website and platform, this kind of services already available online. For example, I can mention the University of Buea, the University of Buea and the University of Douala, whom I could realize yesterday running the website that they are really advanced. And from the university, in the University of Buea, for example, you don't need to move to the university to apply for a transcript. So this all depends. It's really relative. At the University of Yaoundé too, that may seem more equipped is during the COVID pandemic context that they have been able to adapt their platform, but they did it so quickly, quicker than other universities such as Ngaoundéré or Marwa. And now coming to online platform teaching or online teaching, the University of Marwa has been able to adapt quicker than ERIC, that seems more funded and more equipped than the University of Mara. So I think it's all depends, and there is a question of leadership also, I think, regarding the process of adaptation here. And the question about the radio courses on radio, these are deserve to level 1 and 2 students, university. And why radio course? First of all, taking a look at the I don't know how you call effective numbers of students. There are thousands at university. This is a point I needed to mention. There are thousands, almost 2,000, 2005 in level 1 and 2. So it was difficult, according to exchanges I had with administrative staff, is that it's difficult to interact in using a platform to interact with 2,000 students at once, managing questions on virtual platforms. So they just prefer a presenter, a lecturer to present the course, and maybe get 2 or 3 questions from the public, intervening directly through the radio. And regarding also the case of WhatsApp groups, we observe that these are the kind of platform used only in small programs of 40 to 45 students, where it's more easier, though it takes like 4 hours, it's more easier for one side or the other side, lecturers and students, to interact and have more close discussions. So it all depends. And I think that from that particular point of view, there is a question of leadership. Who is managing? What's the relationship of the manager or main actor to the technologies themselves? It's very, very important.
Thank you very much, Mireille, and also for shedding light on what is happening right now. That's very current research we get to take part of there. At this point, I wanted to hand over to Ms. Ndomo Dlamini of the Association of African Universities. Ndomo, I think you have your video off, if it's possible to turn it on so we can see you. Yes, there you are. So Ndomo, she is the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the AAU, and therefore has a very particular vantage point to speak both from her organizational experience, but maybe also on behalf of her members, the universities in Africa. So Ndomo, I give you 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Kaisa. Thank you to the speakers that have spoken ahead of me. And as a discussant, I will comment concerning inclusivity. I think inclusivity is something that we have learned or has through COVID-19. The fact that there are diverse groups of students and people that need to be taken into consideration. And the biggest challenge, as has been brought, infrastructure issues that really lead to challenges with equity and access. And when we look at some of these campus level, if the campus infrastructure is weak, then that campus infrastructure cannot support students and faculty remotely. And also there's national COVID-19 challenges.
Could you turn off your video to make the sound more stable?
Let me do that. Let me do that. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah. Let me stop.